To see when we're really live.
Are we?
Live? I don't know if we're live.
I love the photos of your cat lately, Brian.
It says we're live.
It says we're live? Good, I think we're live. Hi, I'm Paul Yellovich.
Hi, I'm Tiger 7. I'm Evan. Oh, I'm Tiger Evan. I'm sick. Be nice to me.
I'm Brian David Marshall. Hi.
Yeah,
Hi,
and
Brian.
I guess we're doing another one of these things. Oh, we are live. Good, I'm seeing it.
I'll duck when I go.
That was
I have a
weird.
sneeze button like in radio.
You are the Keith Hernandez of this booth, Evan.
So we
I
got
wish I had-
people saying hi.
Hi, I wish I had his money. Keith Hernandez. Keith Hernandez. I only like Mookie Wilson. It's the best name to ever say. And I love Felix Mion because I watched him.
Hey, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hello. Hi, everybody. We will tear him up. I am feeling better, so thank you, everybody who dropped me a nice line on Instagram. But yeah, I was really sick. But I am getting better. I thought I had an abscessed tooth, but it... Ooh. Oh, 3 pies. Ooh. I'm gonna go that place, though, because the food did look decent.
Yeah.
I can eat Italian food all day and night, but if that guy was ever near me, I'd puke on his pie. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, this is Tear Them Apart. This is our third live
No, it's our second live, but our third
Live.
webcast.
web. Why am I saying this then? You say it. Is that distracting that you can see my fan doing? I'm going to try to.
It
fix
relaxes me, actually. I think
Does
it's
it?
fine.
Well, there we go. Oh, I shouldn't have done that because I had so much trouble.
So clearly we're going to be discussing the Blair Witch Project today.
It looks like a Jerry Anderson special effect. I'm looking. Hey,
Well, yeah, that's much better, Evan.
yeah.
That's working now.
Hi, UFO is a great show about people who built rockets with one bullet. Hello, Mandy. How are you? If they missed with that one bullet, the alien would get on Earth and have a very boring 45 minutes with Ed Straker. I wanted to watch that show so much more. But okay, I'm back. Oh, hey, that's actually better than I had it before. The fucking fan is still there, though. Does
Don't
it
worry
matter?
about the fan. It's
All right.
fine.
I have a
You
new
know?
shirt. It's Baltan Sajin.
Oh, that's nice.
Uniqlo had a sale. Sarah found some shirts. I got some Kitaro shirt, and she bought me a Donald Duck shirt as a gift. That was nice. Okay. So, what?
No, we're so professional. It's amazing.
You know, isn't he cute? He's the cutest damn thing. I can't find the little one. I have the 5-inch figure of him, and I honestly don't know where it is, and it's not bothering me as much as it would have been pre-therapy, but it's really bothering me. So, wow. Okay, the things that we're probably going to talk about. We're probably going to talk about the movie Neon Maniacs, right? Which Paul and I both
Yes.
recently watched.
Yes.
I have it queued up, but I have not watched it yet. So
Yeah,
I'll make
don't.
my-
You're not missing stuff. I have a
Yeah.
feeling Paul watched it while he was
Intoxicated.
yeah, because I would have liked it a lot
I
more.
honestly watched it because there's better copies of it
Right.
now, so you can actually see it because the movie's so goddamn dark.
It
You can't
is.
see the maniacs because
Yeah.
they're not neon.
Should we just
and-
get into this for a little? Why don't we just talk
Sure.
about Neon Maniacs for a while? Brian, you've never seen it?
I haven't. I have it queued up actually though.
So we watched this at Paul's many moons ago. The group was there, and it wasn't a bad time, but I remember it being a confusing movie because it's not very well made.
Right.
And there's Neon Maniacs, right? It's 1986. The director is a guy named, Joseph Mangine or Mangine. He actually made Alligator, which is interesting because
Is that the John Sayles script?
yes. Now here's the thing: if you take a John Sayles script and you have a director who's not very good, you still end up with a good movie. Apparently, especially when you have good
Yeah.
effects people helping direct the alligator scenes, because that movie's a bit of a mess. I caught it late in life, and I heard a lot of things about it that were good, but it has good actors. and a good screenplay, but it's not directed well. It's directed like the Apple Dumpling Gang or something like. It's just scenes piled on scenes. Neon Maniacs has the same problem. It's his last film. The guy who wrote it, interestingly enough, because it's rare to see one of these movies where you go, nobody here had a career, right? And it turns out that Joseph Mangine made a couple of films. Paul, you want to check on him real quick?
Sure.
He did something other than Alligator that is a known quantity that people kind of like. But Neon Maniacs is such a strange film. The guy who wrote it ended up writing Pumpkinhead, which is a movie that we've talked about, and I don't understand the appeal of that movie at all.
Oh, Pumpkinhead's terrible.
It is.
Remember, we saw that at Exhumed. So we saw that in the theater with people, and it was agonizing to sit through. It is so bad.
It doesn't even have like so bad it's good laughs. It's an incredibly earnest film. It's just all atmosphere, Pumpkinhead. And it's got this, what the heck? Oh, Smoke and Flesh. What the heck is that?
That's his other movie. That's the director's only other movie.
He's only directed 2 movies, but he's been the cinematographer for a ton of stuff.
That's interesting. I wonder if that's right. He ended up okay, so here's the thing about Neon Maniacs.
Including Lords of Flatbush.
I saw that a lot as a kid, didn't you?
Yeah, it was on a lot.
It was on a lot. All your favorite Brooklyn guys who were on sitcoms, I think. What, Travolta and Stallone or something like that? Ken Wall? I can't remember now.
Ken Wall is Wanderers.
Well,
is Ken Wall in this too?
No. Oh, my hair is going crazy.
It's Perry King in this as Ken Wall.
There's a guy named Ken Wall?
Perry King, Sylvester Stallone, Henry Winkler.
Oh, right, Perry King. Perry King was always supposed to be a breakout star, and he just never quite. He's in Rollerball, I believe. I'm not sure. No, that's another guy. Sorry, but Perry King almost made it. So here's the thing about Neon Maniacs. I looked it up afterwards, and it's one of the few times where you feel like you know what you're talking about. Because I'm watching Neon Maniacs, and I'm going, this movie is a fucking disaster. It's a mess.
Right.
It doesn't have a center. It's kind of interesting if you like comparing movies, thinking about how scripts work or don't work. If you watch this after watching something like Return of the Living Dead or everybody loves the Pumpkinhead creature.
Yeah. The movie's what stinks.
The movie is terrible. But this is my problem. This is my problem with Pumpkinhead. 2 problems. One, it's really boring. It feels like it's just an hour and a half of a guy wandering in a hayride with smoke machines everywhere, mumbling about his son or something. I've seen it twice. I don't know what the fuck it's about.
Yeah.
Pumpkinhead is a great looking creature, but it doesn't look like a folklore creature at all.
You know how you see a good horror movie and then they make a creature in the horror movie, and they give it a name, and it's just like some stupid name for the character because it doesn't matter because it's a good special effect. And that's what Pumpkinhead is. Pumpkinhead is just like some incidental character that in American Werewolf in London Dream sequence or something, right? You know what I mean? Like,
but they build a whole movie around it. It's not enough to hold. There's no plot there. There's nothing.
The 2 things I hated about the creature design, which is weird because it's Stan Winston, who's fantastic. You know what? No, because Pumpkinhead 2 is terrible. Here's the question: was Pumpkinhead better? Can people see the questions?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Pumpkinhead 2 was arguably a worse movie, but an easier movie to sit through. Because Pumpkinhead is dark, dull, and dreary. People like to go, well, it's full of atmosphere. And I'm like, it's the same atmosphere for an hour and a half. It's just Lance Henriksen. I'd rather watch him paint or, talk conspiracy theories or be any other character. I have no idea what really is going on in that movie. It's a folklore movie that stars a space creature. It really looks like a xenomorph knockoff more than a folkloric creature.
Yeah, it doesn't look like mythology. It
doesn't look like anything you would call Pumpkinhead when you first saw it. It looks like it looks like if Don Dohler had money. It looks like a night beast or a space. It's just a big bipedal. Yeah, I'd agree. Pumpkinhead 2 is fucking awful. Pumpkinhead 2 is sort of like the quality of Blair Witch 2 to Blair Witch 1. It's just it doesn't try to do anything the first movie does. It creates its own movie and is terrible. Neon Maniacs is kind of interesting because Neon Maniacs obviously sets up a sequel, but so Paul, do you want to talk about the plot of Maniac?
Right. Yeah, Neon Maniacs is basically starts off with someone under the Golden Gate Bridge fishing who finds a book with little painted cards in it.
They look they look like Clow cards from Card Captor Sakura, which he finds a clow of Neon Maniacs.
Right, and they then come out and kill him. And then my biggest problem with the movie is I think there could be one good movie in it, but they kind of make two inadequate movies. We have so eventually it kicks off with a bunch of teenagers. Jesus Christ, they're so old.
Yeah,
who
they
are
really
out in a van messing around, and we meet our
motorcyclists because it starts okay. It's a terrible movie, but it starts as an okay terrible movie.
Right, and you would think that these group of people in this van are going to slowly get killed as the night goes on, but all of them but one dies.
Yeah.
And then we follow her on a romantic journey with this guy. It's just terrible. There's
about 40 to 50 minutes where the movie dies.
Right.
I mean, it dies really bad.
But then there's another character. I think her name is Paula, actually. And she's a young girl who's, so fangirlish for the time this movie came out. She's got a Nostromo hat. She's got fucking, all this shit around her house. She makes
props. She's a movie maker. She makes, she's like the Lost Boys kids. She knows all this shit.
Right. And so she's
the one who's there to be meta.
Well, no, I don't know what she's there for. What they ideally, I think, wanted to do is create these two storylines that would meet at an interesting point, but they didn't do that. You have the survivor of that massacre living with that and going out with this guy.
And we have the same day that her friends are all killed. That night, she goes to the police precinct. The next day, she goes out on a date with this guy to the movies. So that shows you how seriously the screenwriters take their characters. I mean, the thing is, the police believe that she's the key to the slayings of about 9 people, even though she was found in a smashed up van. They think she's lying about her because all of her friends were kidnapped. They were taken away, and there's no evidence except for
goo,
some green goo. It's really not good.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be better. I remember liking it more the first time we watched it. So you have these 12 Neon Maniacs out there. And so you know what it is? The girl who's the film fan, she's the investigator that brings all the information to them in like the last third of the movie. She finds out. Okay, one problem with the movie is there's too many characters. Way too many characters. There's 12 Neon Maniacs. And you never find out why they're called Neon Maniacs.
Right.
There's the entire group of people who get killed at the beginning who are set up to be here's the people who are going to go into the waxworks and get killed off, like Paul said. There's your main character. There's the nerdy guy that everybody makes fun of who she ends up dating, so he becomes your male lead. But then there's all the filmmaking kids. At first, they show 4 of them. Yes. That's your maniac cop, Neon Maniac. They're all these archetypes. There's a maniac cop, a maniac doctor, a maniac soldier, a maniac samurai, a racist maniac Native American, a maniac lizard, 2 lizards with single eyeballs, I think. A maniac hangman. I mean, they're these instant action figure characters.
You may have talked me out of Neon Maniacs, but I really wish Neon Maniac Cop existed.
Well, there isn't. He's in there.
But I want the hybrid movie to exist.
There's also a really horrible.
Just for a pun, Brian. That's
a
pun.
There's a really horrible ape man who they really seem to like the suit for because they show him all the time, but he just looks like the guy from Get a Life with hair on him. He looks like he's in a bathing suit, Chris Elliott. And they show him in full light in a couple of scenes, which is a real mistake, but they love the ape man. So you have the high concept is you're going to love these 12 maniacs, but you don't see them really.
Yeah.
You usually get this romance between these characters who are being followed by the police while this girl, the meta girl who wears a Nostromo cap and her friend has a Nostromo cap, the friend is only in there because his dad's the cop. I mean, they don't know how to disseminate information in this movie. They have to have like 25 that's what I'm talking about. That's like if the naked cowboy was coming at you in the that entire scene makes no sense because this is the whole thing with the movie.
Is that Bart? Is that the Bart? Is that supposed to be like Bart train line?
Yeah. And nobody's around for some reason, and they're going to the movies. And I think it's the samurai and the guy, and one of there's an electric robot.
Right.
It's like they took every cliche from science fiction and horror movies, and they made this set of bootleg figures. The Maniac Cop is the bootleg. Really, if you watch it, you'll see. Here's the bootleg.
Free Chinese knocked off action figures.
Patent pending on the Neon Maniac.
Right. It's designed perfectly as this idea that we're going to throw all these jerks at you, right? It's like Cenobites, but they're colorful, weird things.
They're all splattered with blood, and all they want to do is kill people for reasons you don't know.
But there's no mythology. There's no reason they come out. No curse has been broken. No, it makes no sense. Except, what is their one weakness, Brian? Can you guess their one weakness?
Do they hate the sunlight?
Flip it around. Scratch that, reverse it.
Oh, moonlight.
No.
Darkness?
No.
They like the darkness.
They don't.
They're Neon Maniacs.
They like sunny skies. Rain. Fucking water kills them. Water kills them.
I'm sorry.
So that's why they live underneath the fucking golden tree.
Does it take place in the future?
No.
I don't know. It could.
No, you have no idea. No, because they place it. You can tell by the Battle of the Bands that takes up 20 minutes of the movie. It feels like from the metal.
I'm going to show the best thing in this movie. So there is a part where there's a Battle of the Bands. It makes no sense because a lot of it like our male love interest, who is supposed to be nerdy and the girl spreads so he's in a band.
And he's hot.
Yeah, he's a good-looking guy.
And everybody acts like they love him all of a sudden. And he's a cool guy. So why were they fucking with him in the beginning of the movie?
So they think it might be a good idea when the Neon Maniacs come out, since it's not raining that night, to all go to the Battle of the Bands where they're safe, where they have squirt guns. And the best thing in the movie is this quick shot for half a second.
Oh, I think I've seen this on Facebook.
Where you see a guy with a Mr. Miracle costume.
Yeah, I remember we went bonkers because we were like, who the fuck put that in there in 19...
It's awesome.
It's like a Mr. Miracle sensory deprivation suit.
Well, that might be all Mr. Miracle suit.
That's right. Paul, do you remember any talk about it being near Halloween or that there was going to be a costume contest?
Maybe, but I probably wasn't paying that much attention.
I don't remember a goddamn thing about that. Because that was the way that they got the Neon Maniacs to walk amongst them. Because nobody noticed these foul-smelling,
Chris Elliott, motherfucker.
Nobody noticed that there's these guys who haven't washed their balls in 4 decades, roaming around with really good-looking costumes, sneering at everyone, but nobody uses.
Did you say sneering or smearing?
Go with either.
Okay.
Go with either. So that's how they fucked up their major plan of go to the Battle of the Bands at the high school, which has absolutely no security or chaperones or anything like that. The cops are not doing anything, even though there's been multiple disappearances and cops have been murdered at this point.
Yeah, and there's a weird thing where, as we say in the beginning, this whole van of kids disappears.
Yeah.
And people are like, is this a prank? What's going on? It's horrible.
they're harassing the main character to show that this is a 101 on not how to write a film, okay? Even if it's the worst thing you're writing, if you're writing a comic book in a night, if you're writing a screenplay in 2 days, to not have to show this high school of 30-year-olds all walking down the halls and nobody is talking about the 6 people who disappeared the night before. I was in a high school where there were nobody was really killed in car accidents, but I know people who grew up and everybody knew what happened the night before if there was some news about
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Especially 6 of them disappearing and 1 being found in a van by the cops and the van was smashed in. Now, of course, this is another movie where nobody bleeds when they get killed, even though heads get chopped off. It drives me fucking nuts, to be honest. If you're going to bring police into any movie, no matter how stupid the movie is, everybody knows that there's going to be blood all over the place. The Neon Maniacs aren't sitting there siphoning the blood off of the grass. They said that the rain took away all footprints and took away all the blood.
Right. That's
Ridiculous.
CSI shit there.
There'd be blood everywhere. They'd be the motus. I mean, they'd. Anyway, looking for real. The biggest problem with this movie. So basically, you have Neon Maniacs come out, have no backstory except for a tagged-on opening, which is ludicrous, where some narrator says something about the 13 tribes are going to go look for a planet while the Cylons look for them, and they are known as the Neon Maniacs. It's the only attempt to try to give them any kind of backstory. But the idea that there is a folklore or a myth about 12 modern horror tropes walking around is ridiculous. Psycho doctor, psycho samurai, psycho cop. These aren't things that came out of folklore or anything. Nothing fucking makes sense. So there's the problem for me with this movie, the main problem for me with this movie was it's not funny enough or crazy enough or energetic or stylish enough to just be a romp like Evil Dead 2, Night of the Creeps. Night of the Creeps is a movie that I kept thinking about, and Monster Squad while watching this. Movies that have some meta stuff going on in them. They have some kid characters. They have a group of people running away from crazy odds. And the movie is sort of funny, but there's no Night of the Creeps has characters that these other movies, Waxworks, I was thinking about. These comedy horror movies have style and have characters that you are interested in, and this has nothing. This is just Neon Maniacs.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything right. The effects are actually pretty decent for a low budget film, though. They spent all their time and money on these maniacs, obviously, but you hardly see them.
So does it get above or below the Chud bar?
Oh, below Chud.
Below.
It's below Chud. That is.
Well, it has no. Chud sticks to its basic idea, has characters and actors that you care about and like, and it does have some energy and some laughs and some creeps. This is not creepy at all.
Yeah. So interesting. So I'm getting like some tidbits about the movie from someone who's watching. Mark Thorner, who we knew back in Eternity, Evan, knows the writer of Neon Maniacs.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
and said that the movie was supposed to take place in Brooklyn, and the Maniacs were supposed to come out of the Verrazano Narrows Bridge.
Well, we already know Maniacs come out of the Verrazano.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, well, Brian, real quick, here's the thing. While watching this movie, I was thinking to myself, this is a terribly edited, terribly put together film. That's the problem. I mean, even a movie like Nightlife, I think the name of it is. It's a movie with John Astin, and John Astin plays an undertaker of this town.
Oh, sure. Yeah, right.
Right. It's not a very, very good movie, but it knows what it wants to do. It just can't do it. But it's got a romantic pair that you kind of like. This movie doesn't set things firm until like 50 minutes into the movie. It doesn't know what it wants to do or what it wants to be. It turns out, here's the interesting thing about the movie. It turns out, speaking of the writer, this was going to originally have like 22 maniacs. Which is like
how many Neon Maniacs is too many maniacs though?
10,000 Neon Maniacs.
There you go.
Damn like you! That. How many puns?
I like 10,000 neon maniac cops.
Oh,
I'm pushing
scanner cops. Neon Maniac scanner cops.
I heard those are good. The scanner cops. They're not bad. I've never seen them. I've never seen Psycho Cop either, which is the Maniac Cop ripoff other than Neon Maniac Cop. Now, the thing about Neon Maniacs is also it's got the police thing. There's another storyline, which is just terrible.
Yeah.
And sets up so there was supposed to be 22 Maniacs.
I always wonder with these movies if, like, I watched what's the first Peter Bogdanovich movie, the one with
Targets.
Targets. I watched that with some people the other night.
I haven't seen it.
It's a movie that's in part stitched together from other movies, right?
Right.
Like,
well, that's what he had to do because
right.
I think it's the Corman method, you know.
Right. Corman's like, you got to use this much footage of this old movie, and you got to use this much. You get this much Karloff shooting time, and I feel like when you're making an independent movie, I almost feel like, oh, we have this footage of a battle of the bands, right? No. So let's write that into the story somehow.
Oh yeah,
that would be Bees. Yeah. It has a lot of old, but no. The thing here's the things about the movies that are interesting. So 22 Maniacs, and they realized that that's too many. Yeah, I mean 22 Maniacs is when you design homies for the the gumball machines. I mean, you have 22 of something.
Muscles.
Put them in little capsules. They ran out of money and had to stop filming 3 months. So what that did was not only screw up the continuity and screw up a lot of things. A lot of their stunt actors got jobs and left.
Yeah,
that's why the credits have like 3 people playing
certain maniacs. Yeah.
On top of that, running out of money meant that they couldn't finish the movie. This is technically, according to what I've read, technically Neon Maniac is unfinished.
Right, and even though it's long. It's long.
Yeah.
Too.
They used everything.
It's not 100. It's not an hour and 6 minutes. It's an hour and a half.
It's a boring movie. Yeah. It gets really boring. When you watch something called Neon Maniacs, the last thing you want to see is boredom. And what happens is it turns out that like a set piece that was not supposed to be the end of the movie becomes the end of the movie. And the end of the movie, I've ever seen a movie, good or bad. It's literally no ending.
Yeah.
It's about 15 minutes long, and it ends with a bad, weak joke because they didn't have the money to basically have the monsters fight the police or do anything. They had to wrap this thing up. It was a disaster. So Neon Maniacs is a terrible movie.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I thought I would like it.
What did you, I'm sorry, Evan, what were you going to say?
No.
I was gonna ask Brian what he thought of Targets as a movie.
Oh yeah.
I like Targets. I thought it was actually kind of interesting. You know, again, I love that Orson Welles sort of guerrilla filmmaking. Like this is I have to incorporate this aspect from outside of.
Well, if it's Peter Bogdanovich, then it's chimp.
What's that?
Filmmaking. Sorry, because he's so far up Wells's ass.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. But yeah, I kind of like it. I mean, like it's a pretty upsetting film, I think, probably for the time, right? Like it's hard to view it in context. Like we've seen so many, guy goes off the rails and starts killing people movies since, but I think at the time it was probably pretty jarring.
It's the sniper shooter in Texas, right? Sort of.
Yeah,
the guy. I think Kurt Russell. They did a film with him based on that. Movie. I can't remember his name. Not Starkweather.
No, I think it is Starkweather, right?
The guy that they. No, Starkweather's the with his girlfriend Carolyn. He's the Badlands.
Oh, okay.
Badlands is based on him. He's the guy who had the relationship with the girl, killed the mother, put a quarantine sign on the door to keep people from finding out the mother was dead, and then they went around stealing cars, entering houses,
Charles Whitman.
killing people until he was Whitman. Whitman's the tower killer. Yeah. I've never seen Targets. I want to because the way he uses Boris Karloff is supposed to be really sweet in a weird way.
Yeah, I think that's where I enjoy the film. I don't know if it's a particularly good movie in a lot of ways. It's interesting to look at, but seeing Karloff in that kind of movie is kind of jarring in a way, because you're like, this is not what you ever expect to see him in.
Right. He
And
plays
at the
kind of
end
a
of his
charming
career.
asshole in the movie. But apparently he loved. Apparently he was only supposed to be there for a certain amount of time, but actually gave Bogdanovich a couple extra days of filming because he just liked doing something that was, I think, out of character.
Not a Mexican 4-movie deal where he was in a wheelchair most of the time. He was in bad shape at that point. And the other thing is, Bob was probably super nice to him because Bogdanovich is a bit of a schnorrer. You know, he was like the August.
He's in the movie. He plays a schnorrer in the movie.
I fucking hate Peter Bogdanovich, but I think he's a fantastic archivist, and you know what I'm saying. But
you don't like any of his movies.
I like 2 movies. He
likes his Criterion collection of movies that he has on his bookshelf.
I love Nickelodeon.
Okay.
And no, I didn't see Nickelodeon. I love Paper Moon.
Right.
I think Paper Moon's fantastic.
Do you like The Last Picture Show?
I haven't seen it. Oh,
okay. I like The Last Picture Show.
But I don't.
Yeah,
he's a guy who I hate reading. I hate watching him talk about movies. He's because he's kind of like McCain's daughter. He always has to mention Orson Welles and everybody and everybody he's met. He's got to let you know he's met them 8 fucking million times. I think that it's really funny because I think there are people who talk about Bogdanovich in less than flattering terms, but I do think he knows his shit. But he tries so fucking hard to be Orson Welles' mouthpiece and all these people's mouthpiece that he comes off like one of these old men, one of these people in comics or in science fiction who gloms onto an older artist like a Jack Kirby with Greg, Theakston, who basically is kind of like riding their coattails and stepping in their spotlight and trying to steal their estate with Wally Wood. But at least he made good movies. A couple of good movies. I mean, Greg Theakston hasn't done anything good. He can't even get a book bound correctly. You know? I mean, so I guess that's Neon Maniacs. Did anybody have any questions about Neon Maniacs? I mean, it's just
people talked about I think we're going to get people to watch it. No,
this is what
I am too, Kevin.
You should watch it. If you're a horror fan, if you're a movie fan, it's a fascinating thing to watch, and it's also super inoffensive. It's just dull. You wish it was better because it's basically kids versus monsters. It's a lot like Monster Squad. I don't love Monster Squad. I think Monster Squad is more like Goonies than it is Fright Night.
Monster Squad is my Goonies.
Yeah.
Like Monster Squad
Goonies
holds that spot in my heart that Goonies holds for a lot of other people.
Yeah, I hate Goonies.
The problem I hate Goonies. I saw it in the theater. I got into a big fight with the person I saw it with because I was like, Goonies is one of those movies I do not understand the love for, but I also don't love the Lost Boys people love. But I understand the Lost Boys a lot more than Goonies because there is charisma in Lost Boys. They're good-looking people doing interesting things. The movie's choppy. I don't think it's very funny. I
got into this with someone on Twitter the other day. Lost Boys or Near Dark. If you have to pick a vampire movie from the same year, I mean, they both have Near problems, but Near Dark is just
Near Dark.
I think
Dark is so.
I think Near Dark has a few amazing scenes in it, but ultimately isn't a good movie at all.
The third act doesn't make any sense, right?
Third act, that's when you go to the bathroom and you eat popcorn and you get your blood transfusion. Spoilers.
I like to put M&Ms in my blood transfusion while it's still warm and shake them up.
Sure. Put some caramel M&Ms in there. Near Dark is a movie that I don't understand why people seem to be unable to admit that Near Dark is a mess. The thing about Near Dark is that the casting is amazing.
Yes.
It's well directed. And yes, exactly.
Yes.
Near Dark has the good scenes in Near Dark are so good and memorable that it automatically pushes it over the finish line on fumes. Whereas
where Lost Boys doesn't have any of those great scenes. People just People always
Lost
cite
Boys
the
is-
worm scene, and I'm like, that's not even. Whatever. Who
I don't
cares?
even remember it. I've seen that. Lost Boys is a late period In Excess video that goes on for an hour and 40 minutes. and the other problem is your star should not be less appealing than Kiefer Sutherland as the villain. He needs to be an equal, you know?
Man,
Fright
it's so
Night,
funny.
The lead of Fright Night is not really great, but him together with Amanda Bierce and Roddy McDowall becomes like one character that works. The Holmes,
Right.
he's kind of the Watson to Roddy McDowall's Holmes, and he's game. He's just a little flat. I mean, Night of the Creeps, the main character, Night of the Creeps, is not very good. He's not as charismatic as his best friend, who doesn't make it through the whole movie. In fact, leaves pretty early, and it's a shame. Because
Right.
there's certain things that are the heart of the movie. Like in the Hellboy movie, for me, the Hellboy first one, once Abe Sapien leaves the movie, there's a hole in the movie.
Yes.
He's the heart of that movie. He is a center with the other characters. Once you take him out, there is a really missing puzzle piece. When you take out the best friend in Night of, there is a vacuum that disappears until what's his face, Atkins, the cop.
Yeah, he shows
Then
up
the movie
and starts,
kicks back
and he
in.
steals the movie. He steals
Because he
the
takes over. He steals the movie because that lead character is exactly what they want for the character. They wanted a nebbish to believe that he could get the girl to feed anybody. But that's another movie that has flaws but it's so good all the way through. There's enough fun stuff in Night of the Creeps that you don't give a shit that you do not have a Bruce Campbell.
Right, and that was one of the
you do not have.
That was one of the first movies with two endings that I found really weird. I remember I didn't see that in the theater. I rented that as a kid, and then I saw it on TV with a completely different ending, and it was jarring, you know. So if you're going to see
which is the real ending? There's the ending where the aliens are looking for it for the new. They're looking to see if the creatures have gotten out, and then
there's a dog one.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that one. I don't think I never saw that one. Which is the
believe the dog one is the original one. I believe, but don't
because movies, the non-clean ending. It has to have it's gonna glowing eyes bullshit. But I mean, we're talking about horror comedies here, and the thing is, they really seem to rise and fall on the cast in some ways. I mean, the script obviously, but I mean, you like the characters in Return of the Living Dead. You like the people mostly in Fright Night. You like them in
I was going to say
Waxwork.
Fright Night's probably my favorite of that type of movie. I love Fright Night from what I mean. I saw it in the theater, and I just loved it, and I think it holds up as something that you can watch.
It really. Fright Night has a really good basis because it feels like the people are Stephen King fans, and they took Salem's Lot and went from there, because there's some serious creepy stuff in there that's very Barlow-like. Very, he's got his human accomplice that does his tasks for him. Really reminded me a lot of Barlow and the Master. I forget what the other guy's name is. Maybe it is Barlow. I don't know. I don't remember. But there's a real serious basis in the middle of Fright Night that makes it work really well.
Well, there's stakes, right? There's obviously stakes. It's a vampire movie, but I meant there's, there. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. No,
but I mean,
true.
You feel like there's some real consequences for the characters that are out there, and you feel like Chris Sarandon is a scary fucking vampire.
Oh, he's terrific in that movie.
He's terrific. He's terrific in that. I don't normally like him, and he's terrific in that movie. Yeah. He has such a swagger without actually swaggering. The idea that also that they're gaslighting the shit out of Charlie, and that nobody will listen to him, is really well done. I usually hate movies that spend a good half or more where somebody's going, you gotta understand, they're monsters. You gotta understand there's vampires, and everybody goes blah blah blah. But I mean, and it's got the meta angle with Roddy McDowall as a horror host, and it's got the really sad stuff with Evil Ed, his friend. Is incredibly. Fright Night's terrific, and this is a movie that has a sequel that's absolutely doesn't understand the first movie.
No.
I just saw the sequel on YouTube about a year ago. I could not believe how bad it was.
Yeah.
Again, it feels like an in excess video, like most of its run. I mean, it ruins the characters, it ruined the whole thing. But Neon Maniacs has
pretty soulless remake too.
Well, it's a beat by beat remake. It's like, okay, who's going to be the vampire this time? Well, let's make it a woman, and let's have Charlie not remember anything from the first film or not believe it's real anymore, which is so unsatisfying. It's ridiculous.
I dumped the girlfriend, which I always hate, because it's always the girlfriend that gets dumped. And the thing is, you break up. It's like breaking up a band. When you have characters that work that well together,
right?
You want to kind of keep as many band members together. And they did get Roddy McDowell, but they did not know what to do. I think it's the sister of Chris Sarandon's, but it makes no sense. I believe she's Asian. And there's convoluted, and basically that movie feels like you're at a party for like an hour and a half. You're at a very, very boring goth party. Not knocking goth parties, but this is a dull one because everybody's acting like a jerk. It's like more like the Lost Boys than it is Fright Night. There was no sense. There is Isn't this the one that has a roller disco, a rollerblading vampire?
Yes. Well, it's weird debate because some people wonder if some of those people are vampires or some of them werewolves. Are they Draculas? Are they werewolves? Jesus.
A werewolf and a Dracula. What's that thing on Mr. Show? A werewolf and a Dracula.
They would never have a
party. Doctor, I won't. So yeah, Neon Maniacs is interesting to watch in the frame of this is not as good as any of those other movies. It just doesn't have anything going for it. It doesn't even have good exploitation. It doesn't even go for sex and violence. The violence is pretty much in the dark. And it's almost amazing that nobody's remade this because you have your cult item, and these things would make really good reaction figures,
No, they did remake Fright Night.
No, he's talking about Neon Maniacs.
Sorry.
No, Neon Maniacs. They never tell you why they're Neon Maniacs. I mean, the title, obviously, they just love the title.
Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, the end of the movie is literally. This is the only movie I've ever seen where the monsters hide. And that's the end of the movie. The monsters basically can't see us, and they hide. And there's 5 minutes of the cops looking for them. They don't open any doors, though. But it's it's worse than like hillbillies in a haunted house. You don't even find out that they're hiding because they're gangsters who have been dressing up as neon maniacs because they want to get the money that was left in the Golden Gate Bridge. And of course, it's great to hang out in the Golden Gate Bridge when you don't like water. That's going to work.
Hello.
Hello, Alan. Hey,
all right,
what's up?
So
does anybody have any? If anybody has any,
worse than Chud, I want one last sort of calibration, one last quick flick chart.
No.
Neon Maniacs or Another Son of Sam.
Neon Maniacs, for God's sakes.
Okay, so better than Another Son of Sam, but worse than Chud.
Right.
Okay.
My
there you go. That's your review.
Better than Another Son of Sam. I was sick in bed, sweating and thinking I was going to die last night. That was better than Another Son of Sam.
Yeah.
Is it weird that I've watched that movie twice?
No, it's not.
I don't think I can watch Another Son of Sam again. We already went over this on the episode of the podcast where we did the 4 horrible movies. Things we would not watch. Another Son of Sam we would not watch again. Horror House on Highway 5 I would watch again if I had to. What was the 4th one?
Oh, I don't
Must
remember.
Not have been.
We haven't recorded anything in 5 years since the apocalypse happened.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
But here's a Brian would actually like to talk about a movie that he's recently watched. Brian?
Well, so I've watched it twice, just in theme with what we're talking about. I've been watching, for some reason, I guess I was looking at Pluto TV because of, you talk a lot about Pluto TV, Paul.
Right.
And
what do they show? Pluto Nash?
Yes,
You saw Pluto
you
Nash?
can actually watch
Twice?
Pluto Nash on Pluto TV.
Yeah.
I watched Lord of Illusions twice, which is, I think, in our top 5 worst movies we've ever seen in a theater, right, Paul? Or at least an honorable mention.
Oh, I don't know.
Did we all see that? I think we all saw that together, right? Because I was
It's
with Paul
possible.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
We must have done it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that was go to the island type thing.
Lord of Illusions has a good reputation amongst people who are wrong. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, the thing is, Lord of Illusions is based on a Clive Barker novella, right? Called Last Illusion, which I think is very good. We got that here in America as a Book of Blood thing linked to, but instead of getting it like that, we got it in Cabal. So it was in the back of Cabal. And I loved the novella. I think it's, I mean,
it's right in your wheelhouse, right? Like pulpy magician detectives.
Occult investigating. Is it real magic? Is it
maybe Cthulhian-ish monsters?
Yeah.
Beyond the pale.
Right. Because that's what I was going to bring up about Clive Barker. Clive Barker impresses me as a writer because, like Lovecraft, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
As a racist.
He doesn't just go for the Judeo-Christian type, horror.
Right.
He actually thinks a little outside the box.
He creates mythos. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Right.
On the whole, I'd like to reread his stuff. Yeah.
So Lord of Illusion was something we were super psyched for.
Even after Nightbreed, which is Nightbreed is kind of like Neon Maniacs for
I was thinking about Nightbreed when you were talking about it, right? Like the society hiding in the bridge versus like the Nightbreed hiding in like a crypt.
Yeah, and they don't like sunlight, right? They turn to ash in Nightbreed.
Yes, they cannot.
No, they evaporate if they see a Hammer film.
I hope Ken Hart's not watching because we just lost a pal. But I evaporate if I hear people talk about Blake 7. But no, I've never watched it. Anybody I know who talks about Blake 7 is dead, I think. Oh my God, that's terrible, right? We're getting older. But yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, Neon Maniacs is Nightbreed. Neon Maniacs is like the Three Stooges of Nightbreeds. But yeah, Nightbreed's amazing to watch Nightbreed and go, who the fuck thought Mac Tonight was scary? I cannot believe they put a half moonhead in.
Oh.
I mean, this guy, hello, I'm scary guy. I love that movie when they go basically release the bastards. Like they have a whole bunch of bastards. The Nightbreeds have this like serious, honk if you're lunatics, Nightbreeds, and they go, release the fuckers, and the fuckers come up and just start smashing shit. I'm like, I wish I had a box of fuckers in the closet that I could just, Charles Hayden, some racists show up. I could just release the fuckers. That'd be great. Anyway, I'm going to leave you to
Nightbreed was one of the first movies that felt like it had that. I think one of the reasons we were optimistic about Lord of Illusions is even though Nightbreed wasn't good, there was supposed to be the Barker cut of Nightbreed, right?
And it's better. It is significantly
but at the same time,
but I couldn't sit through all of it though.
The parts I could watch were better.
The thing is, but this as without seeing the Barker cut, at the same time, the things that I don't like about Nightbreed are still in Nightbreed. There's still a lot of awkwardness, bad writing, bad scenes, bad acting. I love the David Cronenberg character, but it seems
the Cronenberg character carried a lot of water for that movie for me.
Yeah, Cronenberg steals the movie. The Mask is good. He comes across as a cold. I wouldn't want to be near him. And
I just wanted to play more villains after that. I would like to see him cast in more things.
I'm scared of Cronenberg. He does an interview. He freaks me out. I find him an unnerving person. You know what I mean? He's like David Lynch without any charisma or something like that. He's very creepy. But he's depressed, so what the hell? But yeah, I find Nightbreed really disappointing, but it's an entertaining disappointing. I mean, there's a lot of crazy shit to look at least. But Lord of Illusions, I remember being very boring and not making sense and having some really obnoxious main characters. like the
Yeah.
Lord of Illusions himself. Is
Well,
an actor I don't really like. I don't remember. Not Jeff
it's
Fahey.
Scott Bakula. It's
Right,
Scott
that's it.
Bakula.
But the
Well,
guy who he's looking for is an actor I don't like.
Oh, right, the cult leader guy.
No.
Oh, the magician guy.
Yeah.
He's in Deep Rising. First Mummy movie, isn't he? Am I thinking right? Am I showing knowledge or being wrong? Let's see.
Kevin J. O'Connor.
I don't remember what else he's in.
He is known for the Mummy.
Yeah.
Trying to see what his.
Do we have anybody left hanging out with us, or is it just the three of us?
We have 23 people watching now. A lot of people are talking among themselves in the group.
Okay, good.
So it's all working well.
All right, so Brian, give us some Lord of Illusions.
Oh, I mean, the thing about Lord of Illusion, like I think so what you said when you pointed out Scott Bakula in the cast, other than a young Famke Janssen, the cast does not have a lot going for it. And it really is the bones of a very interesting movie. Like and again, you talked about this, Paul, this idea of like a non-Judeo-Christian horror, right? Like this idea that there's some elder god, these very powerful. It feels like there's something that I want to be there, but then it's like special effects are like by Sid and Marty Krofft. They're terrible. It's like everything looks like zippers and puppets.
Yeah.
And the lighting's bad, and the cast looks like they're syndicated, like far out space nuts actors. You know what I mean?
What was the basic plot? I mean, some guy disappears, a magician.
There's a magician named Swan who killed a magician named Nyx. And Nyx was, sort of a charismatic leader, very powerful, was not there's all these magicians, but Nyx was a real magician. He could do real magic.
Wasn't there like a cult at the beginning or something like that? Or
there is a cult involved because, I mean, if you're going to spoil this movie, it's kind of Angel Heart-like in a lot of ways.
Sure.
It's
I've seen that. Yeah.
We eventually have a situation where there's souls, there's agreements, there's a cult leader. It's just, I don't know. I didn't rewatch it. Brian wanted me to rewatch it, and I was like, I figured I'd fake it because I really don't really watch it.
It's one that I wanted to rewatch because I find Clive Barker films on the whole really interesting, even if they fail utterly, except for this thing called Transmutations, which I think we talked about quickly. A very cheap, very bad, very boring, ugly 80s film made in England. And that's all I'll say about that one. Except for Rawhead Rex, of course, which is just unbelievably bad. But I find Nightbreed...
Midnight Meat Train?
No, I haven't.
I don't know. Everybody loves it. And, I feel like it just personally looks and feels like every movie I hate. You know what I mean? It's like, ooh, it just doesn't work for me. And it's also a plot that you've seen so many other times done with a little more interesting takes,
I feel like that story being fairly short and punchy too. Like, how would you stretch that into, would you turn that into, what's that British movie about the cannibals underground?
Raw Meat.
Raw Meat. It feels like it's, weren't we just talking about something that sounds like this sort of thing with the Richard Lehman books? The sort of mean type stuff. But it also, I remember the story sounding like it's the kind of thing where you can't blow it up too much or it wouldn't make any sense. Much like the train scene in Neon Maniacs, which literally, I forgot to mention, there's a scene in Neon Maniacs, that scene where he showed you the Chris, the Chris Elliott ape. They take over a train, they kill the conductor of the train, and in like the only scene of the movie that looks like it's trying to be funny, like really out there crazy, like a Spookies or a Gremlin. The neon maniac one neon maniac starts driving the train, and you've got to ask yourself what the fuck happens after this scene when you've got there's a guy driving the fucking subway train,
but he leaves afterwards. It ends, his shift ends, he puts on his hat, he gets his lunchbox, he goes to his neon family, whoever the fuck they are. You know,
you don't have to have seen Taking It from 1, 2, 3, the trailer, to know how a train how the part system would have these things going, oh my god, it's not stopping and there's a neon maniac on board. It's that kind of movie. Yeah. It's like a guy in a
Switch is a better name.
Yeah. So yeah, Lord of Illusions. Is there anything good?
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel like there's a lot of I'm a sucker for people who are hiding in plain sight as, you know, magicians who can do real magic, who can do really dark magic and arcane magic, and are
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken, did you just come on? Because we mentioned you earlier.
Yeah, we just mentioned you. We Ken Hart is.
Did you Beetlejuice him?
Oh shit. Well,
I didn't say Ken Hart 3 times.
Right.
I can't even.
But the thing is, Ken Hart's someone else from the Jim Hanley's Universe Circle, a very old friend. You know,
he has a podcast.
Yes.
In fact, Colin Baker, Doctor Who. We can put a link somewhere, Phil.
Yeah, type up.
Ken.
Yes.
Yeah, Ken, put your link in there. Yeah, why would
type in the name of your type in the name of your podcast, Ken, and we'll put it up.
You're right. Yeah, Ken, I didn't actually mention you. I lied. I mentioned Alan Rollins. Everybody, come for the in-jokes, stay for the no-jokes. So yeah, I'm with you. Is there This is a diversion, but is The Conjuring anything like that? I know that was a big deal. That's part of this universe, and people seem to love The Conjuring. And I've been curious, but it's a really long movie.
The thing about the Conjuring universe and those characters based on that real couple, it's different. I really think, I was going to say before, I think the real problem with Lord of Illusions is it suffers from bad 90s movies. You know, it feels like just a bad 90s movies. The clothes suck, the design sucks, everything sucks that isn't maybe monsters or guts coming out of someone. And it butchers the story.
Money is not there for it also. Yay, that's Ken's prepare the time lapse. Yeah, put your put a link in there too. Ken was definitely one of our Doctor Who experts back in the day, and not the type that got me to hate Doctor Who like 2 other friends of mine. I didn't like Doctor Who for decades because of some of these people. But anyway, yeah. You get the feeling that Clive Barker was having a lot of problems getting money, right? I mean, because Hellraiser did so well.
Right.
And it's weird that he felt like you think he would be making movies to this day if he wanted to, and it just did not happen.
Yeah, he's a
enough.
weird character. Yeah, I don't know a lot of the behind the scenes, whether, money and censoring and all the other things that must have, affected these movies that we always hear aren't the movies he really wants to make and stuff.
Yeah. I wonder if Nightbreed lost a lot of money because it does not look like a cheap film with all those prosthetic effects and action scenes.
And I think there was a lot of marketing behind it too. I think the studio really made an effort on that movie. But good news, Evan, I know you've been very worried about this. There is a Nightbreed TV series coming. So you can don't let your
make anything
into
a TV. Don't make anything into a TV. So is this going to have the Mac Tonight gypsy weird character?
Only if it's faithful too.
Didn't that character actually have some sort of Romany? It just seemed wrong, right? I mean, it just seemed really. Anyway, like, do you think he hangs bath towels off his chin and stuff when he comes out of the shower?
Just
People
his
hang
robe.
hats on him.
Just his robe. They're also
yeah.
remaking Hellraiser. So, I mean, I guess maybe we're going to see a little renaissance of Clive Barker.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope he makes good money. He seems like an okay guy. I mean, I read about when I was checking out Hellraiser and then Hellraiser 2 when I first started getting back into horror movies a couple of years ago, and he's really open about his inexperience on Hellraiser and how much of it his crew and his director of photography really helped him. Because I thought that there's a real assuredness in some of the camera movements and setups, and that's a movie that does not have a lot of money. It takes place in some very small location. Like it took a big deal for them to go to a restaurant to do a very short scene between the lead girl and her father. But it's mostly in this house set. And
that's what's so weird to me about. That's what's so weird to me about Lord of Illusions is because it feels like it should have progressed, right? Like it feels like you go Hellraiser, which doesn't look bad, and then Nightbreed, which is not a great movie, but looks pretty good in some places, and obviously has some money behind it. And then Lord of Illusions feels like something that you should be able to do.
Lord of Illusions, all I remember from it mainly was I did not care for the characters. The plot was all over the place, and desert. And desert is boring to me. That's me personally. I have a real problem with films that take place in desert areas. The only movie that I can think of that I like that takes place with a lot of sand is Dust Devil, this Australian film that's really weird. But I mean, otherwise, I think of movies like, geez, I can't even tell you. I mean, I like the early Mummy films. I have not seen the recent Brendan, the Mummy movies that everybody knows, with The Rock and all that stuff, the action movies. Yeah, I don't know those. But I mean, when a movie takes place in the desert, I tend to really tune out because the desert is usually so dull to look at. I mean, the desert can be beautiful, but for an hour and a half, I think of movies that have no budget. I think of the later Tremors movies that really don't have any towns in them because they can't afford.
Tremors was just mentioned in the chat.
Yeah.
I saw Tremors late, and I went through as many Tremors films as I could, and I really liked that first Tremors movie a lot. I can see why people were saying the things they did about it. And a little of that is in the second movie, but it feels like it gets out of control, and they don't know what to do, so they just start killing off characters you liked. And obviously, when they lose Kevin Bacon, a good portion of the film falls out. I love Fred Ward. I know you guys do, too.
Yeah.
He's terrific.
And then the movies end up becoming taken over by the gun guy.
Reba McEntire and Michael Gross.
No, he gets the book from her. He leaves.
Michael Gross has a new Tremors movie coming out, I think, this year.
Is that the weirdest thing that he's in like 5 Tremors movies now that he's taken over the... it's a really funny franchise, even though the movies kind of get dull, because really it is basically this guy who has no life. His wife has left him. He's lost anybody that he was becoming friendly with. His town was kind of destroyed. And now he just drives around in trucks and shows up at towns that need him to kill these graboids. No, it's funny because graboids is the creatures is about as bad as Pumpkinhead because they don't look like graboids. A graboid sounds like something from outer space, but these look like just plain giant worms. But that's just me.
Right.
I get uptight about that shit. Graboid is like a robot or something. A grabber, maybe. But Tremors was cool. Tremors was cool, though. They didn't have a ton of money, but they did smart, interesting things in using the geography, the location, and the characters are really likable.
Right. And another good humor movie that has stakes, right? Like where you feel like characters might die in the movie.
Definitely. Yeah, I liked the way that they were all trapped on built. I mean, it was just really, really neat. And the way they learned things, the way they accepted and built off. It was good. It was a lot of fun. But the new ones are just like they literally should just start making movies like Tremors take place in Vancouver. I mean, they did have one where they just go, we're in Mexico now. And they might as well have just had a thing that said Mexico. It's cheaper to film here. And Michael Gross drives into Mexico to meet some hunk. and some babe, and that's what he seems to do in all these movies now. It's like Tremors is the strangest under the radar. Wasn't there a Tremors TV show? Or
I know there was supposed to be a Tremors TV show. I think there might have also been. I think there was supposed to be a Tremors show that was going to reunite, like Kevin Bacon was going to be in it, and they were going to do stuff on it. But I think there was an older Tremors show. Jeez, there's so much media these days.
That was called Shakes. Shakes the Tremors.
No, there was a
Shakes.
2003 television show spun off from the Tremors franchise. Sci-Fi Network.
2003. Wow.
Yeah.
It's weird how you hear
with Michael Gross.
Things and he showed up in Vancouver and Toronto. I think the plot of that was he ran a Tremors store and all the Tremors got out and he had to check the manifest and he had to get all the Tremors that people had because
this truck is supposed to have 15 graboids in it, right?
Where's my
I count
graboids?
12 graboids, you sons of bitches. This is not how
you cut to some guy. You cut to some guy in Toronto who looks like a Crispin Glover mutant, and he's got a graboid, and it's made his life better. But then things aren't working out so well with the graboid. Hopefully, Michael Gross and Roby and the pissy guy.
I was going to say, when does Roby show up? She sings that One Night in Bangkok song. My fucking roommate had her version of One Night in Bangkok, and he would play it incessantly. And it was Morrissey, and I'm sitting there going, she's not going to fuck you because you play her record all the time, Morrissey. This is not happening. Check the manifest. Now that's a horror movie.
Yeah, a cursed life. Oh no, look, a cursed roommate, a cursed life. But yeah, that John D. LeMay, is that his name? The third wheel of Friday the 13th. Paul and I just watched 15-hour documentary on Friday the 13th.
No, I haven't finished rewatching it. I'm in the process. I know
John D. Lee, the guy from the TV show, who's also in one of the. He's a pissy little feller. Woo! What was that? Crystal Lake Memories?
Yes, Crystal Lake Memories.
Woo!
It's a little over 6 hours, and it basically takes you through.
I just watched it.
Yeah. It's an amazing thing.
I watched the whole thing, narrated by Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lost Boys. So where were we? Lord of the. How did we get from Tremors from Lord of the. How did I do that?
This is, by the way, when you listen to the audio podcast and we say that we record for 9 hours, but it's only like 4 or 5 hours that you hear over a couple of. This is what happens. There are tangents.
Yeah,
there are asides. Sorry.
Aside.
So Evan, I've officially been on the show enough that I get a character now.
Yeah.
So I get a little drawing.
Well, where did I put it? Jeez, hold on, let me find it. Yeah, people who have listened to the podcast know that we have these that we I basically stole the. Well, here's a cute thing. Hold on. Paul gave me these. He made little Legos. There's Paul as the skull. They're from Halloween 3. I started drawing everybody. There's Stevie as the witch, and here's me as the pumpkin. But I used the 3 characters from Halloween 3 as our little avatar kind of things for all the artwork. And since Brian's been, I realized so Brian is a non-Halloween 3. He's the cat. Can you see this?
Yeah, I'll bring up the picture better from Instagram.
I put it on Instagram. So yeah, you're a cat now. And if we have other people on, I don't know what maybe there'll be a Tremors ripoff or maybe there'll be Michael Gross.
Michael Gross.
I'll put them
He's wearing a Michael Gross mask.
I'll put a Michael Gross mask. I mean, Michael Gross is like, he's made a life out of these Tremor movies. He reminds me of people who go from one convention to another, like Marty Nodell life back in the day when it felt like they only ate if they got to a convention. It's like Michael Gross literally is probably in a truck that says Tremors on the sides, and he drives to the location of the new movie, and he gets to live again. He gets to stay in an Econo Lodge, and he gets to be his character. They've probably humanized him a lot because he was such a gun freak back then, and that might not play with as many people since modern times have become what they are. So what's our next topic?
I don't know.
Unless you have more to say about more delusions. I mean, I talked about Curse of the Blue Lights, but if nobody's seen it, I don't want to go get it's. Did you try watching it?
I tried watching
tough.
it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's fun.
I knew I knew you would not get through Curse of the Blue Lights. I kind of knew it.
How dare you?
Yeah. No, it's not an insult. It's for anything. It shines
It's a compliment.
It is.
Yeah, it shows how bad my life is.
There
I
was
watched the whole
zero headshots on Curse of the Blue Lights.
Oh, yeah. How many headshots do we have on Neon Maniacs? Did you guys check?
Oh
We
yeah.
have to remember,
I think
Brian,
Stevie did.
Brian, do you have a name for this system of film critique?
Yeah.
That you have come up with, which is wonderful. Okay, I'm looking at it right now.
I would just call it the
three
head scale, I guess.
The head scale?
Head scale, yeah.
The BDM head scale? There are 3 people who have headshots in Neon Maniacs. One of them is Miguel Ferrer's ex-wife, who has worked in a bunch of things. One of them is named Jesse Lawrence Ferguson. Does that ring a bell? Don't know. The other one is apparently somebody who got work later on. He plays the psycho doctor. He is James Atchison.
Okay.
I don't know who that is. Acheson. No idea. Because I haven't seen a movie since 1997 on the whole. So Curse of the Blue Lights is pure regional.
Yeah,
what the fuck filmmaking.
Can I do my review? This is my review of the 15 minutes I could barely get through of that. All right? Here's my review.
No.
Curse of the Blue
Ben
Light.
mentioned Sid and Marty Krofft before, which is interesting because it's exactly what this is. It's Sid and Marty Krofft making horror movies.
Nothing but trouble plus hilarious House of Dr. Frankenstein. That's it. It's amazing to me watching this thing. It's like, what are you talking about? Oh God!
It's my idiot review would be that it's Sid and Marty Krofft's Phantasm, and
I would watch that with a bottle of Four Roses so happily.
Personally, I think Curse of the Blue Lights is really watch-worthy, but it's a head shaker. The sets really you keep. The movie says that it was made in 1988. It really looks like a 70s movie in every way but the clothes.
Yes, it looks like that other movie that we always mangle the name of, Malafant's Carnival of Bullshit, whatever that was.
Yeah, that insane movie. It really looks like it's so dark and cheap in places, and it's so DIY. It's I think it was made in Colorado or something, which is neat. I like, it's always nice when you can light up your map of terrible regional movies made by, and it's not always Florida or Georgia or New York. And the movie is, it really did make me think of Phantasm in some of the setup, and in some of the way everyone who drives, it's on a black screen, like some Carpenter shots, but lots of Phantasm scenes. There's just black backgrounds indoors, outdoors, because they had to shoot against a black background. It's a lot of teenagers who are in their 30s and 20s. They come across these 2 ghouls and their big watermelon-shaped ghoul magician boss, who are trying to raise it's basically monsters have been brought back to life who are trying to bring back their master, some big, crazy Don Doler looking thing. It's very Don Doler-like. I mean, there's the love of big giant zipper suits for some of the monsters. It's ambitious for what it is, but it really does come up like you're watching kids playing soldier versus monsters. They ended up getting like a SWAT team to be their cops, a real bunch of cops. So they just start shooting shit, blowing shit up at the end, which is hilarious. But it looks like it takes place on horror host sets. and it really
Oh.
looks like the main sets where you see the monsters trying to turn these people into zombies and stuff, kind of like the Torment. It all looks like you're expecting Witchy Poo and that guy with the spider outfit, where his, it took him a year to realize that his other arms moved because his top arms were attached to them. But you really expect to jump up and stuff and cling and clang to save people in this movie. It's bad. The acting is hilariously bad. There's this one guy who's your comedy guy who's so funny, but not for the reasons they want. I mean, he kind of looks a little bit like the drummer from Cheap Trick if he shaved. I mean, it is, you already know if you want to watch
Bunny Carlos.
Yes, but he's more like, potato bun E. Carlos.
Yeah,
not as good. So if you like cheap filmmaking where everybody kind of was invited to work on it and the same names show up in the credits all the time and nobody ever worked again, the effects are actually really good for this kind of movie. Yes, but some of the people who I think worked on the effects ended up getting work in the effects industry. So it's like watching an old movie where, Carl Beckner, I think his name is, or somebody like that moves Rob, but the effects look very theatrical. The ghoul masks and the monster outfits are incredibly mask-like. They don't move well, but they're really better done than the average film you've seen. The monster at the end kills me. He's Doctor Who quality, maybe even a little bit better than old Doctor Who. So yeah, you get zippers, you get people. They use baked beans as a special effect. Let's put it that way. They really did. They actually show baked beans in a vat, and the baked beans are sort of like life essence or something. I don't know what they're supposed to be, blood and stuff coming out of people's heads to go feed this vat where there's sword fighting at the end, which is the kind of sword fighting where people are afraid of the sword coming near them. It's there's a witch who gives a performance that's absolutely fucking insane. She's sort of like the phantasm lady who tells the future and then laughs at the kid, but she has a greater role, and there's mirrors that they walk through. I kind of loved it. It stinks.
Yeah.
So, but if you don't like films that move very slowly and the acting is absolutely horrific, you're not going to like it or be able to
sounds
sit
like I will love it.
It moves quicker than Another Son of Sam.
Oh, you're talking me out of it now.
No, it's Another Son of Sam is really the bog standard for slow movie. It's really, he's putting his gun belt on. He's on the phone.
He's still on the phone, but the scene has stopped. He's talking on the phone.
That was amazing. That was amazing. This guy's singing in a nightclub. I'm still hearing that guy in my mind. So Curse of the Blue Light it's also apparently very, very, it's a very, very obscure film for obvious reasons. It didn't really get a release. It has a terrible name, Curse of the Blue Lights. Ooh. It really says it. Ooh. So it's on YouTube. Neon Maniacs is on YouTube, I think.
Well, it's on Tubi, but the Tubi copy is the grainy old 3x4 television version.
Oh, that was the one I was gonna watch the Tubi version, so I should watch it on YouTube instead.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. They float around.
Should I watch them both and be sure?
Watch them both, but watch them both on two monitors, like your Batman, like trying to figure out how to stop it or something.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, you're the warden. You're the warden in some future prison.
Oh, and, I love future prisons.
So everybody's running around with those Link collars on, and they're gonna blow Mimi.
Oh, Wedlock.
What's her face?
Wedlock.
Wedlock. There's two movies like that. There's Wedlock,
two names
and then
the movie does have two names.
Deadlock and Wedlock. Yeah.
I don't know.
Wedlock and Curse of the Green Lights. Curse of the Blue Lights is on YouTube. Oh, it's also the funny thing about the makeup is actually so accomplished for the money that they have, but not pliable, that you can't understand a lot of things that the main villains say. The guy who is the main villain, who's kind of like really into it. You can't understand a lot of what he says because his the prosthetic is sticking his mouth together. So he's doing these very theatrical dinner theater kind of speeches. He almost feels like he wandered out of an Andy Sidaris film and fell into some interesting makeup and then ran to the blue lights. And it's hard to tell what they're doing some of the time. But the baked beans are hilarious, yeah. Honestly, baked bean.
Do you want to take some questions?
Of course.
Here's a good one. We haven't.
Do you
We
guys have
didn't
any
read these.
favorite monster movies?
Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what?
No,
Do
go
you
ahead.
guys have any favorite? Oh, do you guys have any favorite monster memorabilia from growing up? In case anybody's listening and not watching. Mine, this is Roger. Remco 3 3/4 glow creature because it's always toys with you. Huh. That's a good question.
Yes.
Brian? Paul?
Well, yeah, I grew up with the Aurora models. I did the Aurora models when I was a kid.
That was going to be
So-
mine. Yeah.
The problem was I am a terrible model maker. I was then because I had this
Same.
thing that it was never perfect. So since it
I
wasn't
suck.
perfect, so I built. So like I had King Kong, the Aurora King Kong, and I glued his legs together wrong. So he had a big hole where the crack of his ass was, where I would keep change. You know? So you
I
could.
wouldn't be able to take a hairy nickel out of his ass. I'd be like, this is going to stink.
No, it was plastic.
I was
And,
way too uptight. I'd be like, I can't reach into this plastic monkey's ass to take
Oh,
a
you-
quarter out for the love
Oh,
of
you
me. If
shake
that's a fine
it.
comic book,
You shake it. You shake it, or you break his leg off and you glue it back.
No. I need 6 quarters. Come on, Kong. Come on, man. I need 6 for Marvel Treasury. Come on, Kong. I had the Aurora models, but I had to have them multiple times because my mom would smash them against the wall constantly. So I have very, very mixed feelings about the Aurora models. I still have them. I bought them for me and my kid to make, and we never really got around to it.
Yeah.
Lost interest, and
Yep.
and I do stink at them. We built a couple of dinosaur models together, which was pretty cool, but she lost
Yeah.
interest. So I have a lot of the remakes, reissues downstairs.
Did you have
I
the
love the
Godzilla?
Aurora.
The Godzilla one.
Yes.
The Godzilla one bothered me
Like
because
3
you
times.
wanted to have the glow in the dark fins, right?
Yeah.
But the glow in the dark hands just look silly to
I
me.
never used glow in the dark unless it made sense, which means what I did is I remember because I was uptight, I had the glow in the dark head and I just put it as a little bust to the side, you know. But I never used the hands. I didn't have any of the monsters. I only had Godzilla.
You didn't have
I
Frankenstein
liked
or
you-
Dracula in those?
No, I liked those movies, but I didn't want those models for some reason because I just didn't. They weren't giant. I like giant monsters more. I did end up getting the Rodan and the Ghidorah that were made later. My father got those for me, and they were amazing. The thing that bothered me is I never glued King Kong and Godzilla into their stands because I wanted them to fight, and they weren't in scale. So it annoyed me that Kong was holding the Fay Ray woman because she's like this big. Whoop. And Godzilla's head is like this big. So, and the Godzilla buildings on the back. But I love those models to death. Oh my god,
Yeah.
absolutely love them. But my mother would smash my models, and she would smash my Migos, and she would tear up my magazines. She would tear my posters off the walls, and she would rip my books up. She did this multiple times. So yeah, but I had Roger. You might know what the make of this is. I can't remember. Was it Remco? There's a very expensive, I will never be able to have it again. There's a Creature from the Black Lagoon 8-inch Migos style figure. It's the one that collectors always talk about because there's a skinny version and there's a fat version, and it has metal joints instead of plastic or whatever. And it's a Creature from the Black Lagoon, not Rempel, I don't know, but they made like 4 monsters, and I got it in the weirdest place. On Sundays, my father would take us to Schmata Alley in the Lower East Side. Schmata Alley was where all the Jewish-owned clothing businesses that were, pun intended, remnants of the old days There were all these suit businesses, clothing, textiles. It was when you come off the Manhattan Bridge, you turn right, and they would shut down this area to traffic on Sunday, and people would just walk around and buy things from the stores that were open. And I don't know why he was, he probably was taking us there because what my father would do, which we found out later, was he would tell us he's taking us to where his friends are because he had to talk to them, but he was probably working on Sunday. He was an electrician. He did very, very well, but he would take us to automotive place in Brooklyn and just leave us on our own for hours. We had nothing to do. He took us to a Israeli pizza place in the city, and we'd sit in a booth. So yeah, my childhood had some fun moments, but he took us to Schmont Alley. I feel like he was probably doing some work, or he knew people there that he was visiting and dealing with. Somebody had toys on pegs, and one of these Jewish businesses, and there was the creature, and it was my favorite toy, one of my favorite toys of all time. I don't know what happened to it. The joint broke in the arm, and I would constantly be putting it back on and praying it would stay on. I wish I didn't throw him out or give him away in the big toy purge when I was 13 and moved from Brooklyn to Staten Island and gave all my toys away almost to my friends' brothers because I thought I was a man now. I'm 13. I had a bar mitzvah. I shouldn't be into toys, right? I'm moving on. I took my Star Trek Mego playset. I put all my G.I. Joes, my Micronauts, and my Megos into it. Star Trek Megos, Planet of the Apes, Marvel. I put all this stuff in, brought it over to Scott Seawald's house. All the kids came and took a bunch. I went home. I burst into tears and cried all night. And I felt so depressed the next day. And I'm still still wishing I had this stuff back. It's the worst.
That's just like Tony with his VHS porno bag.
Huh?
Do you have any
away to kids?
Do you have movie memorabilia there?
Tony gave
Brian, that you
I mean, for me, the thing that I when you talked about that Star Trek playset, that was the thing that I was thinking about. Because I would do the Planet of the Apes. I would beam the Planet of the Apes onto the deck of the Enterprise.
Spin that. You
spin that thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I still. I would play. I would play with that right now if I had that.
I had four. My dad was good at getting me toys because he worked for a toy store. He did electrical work for Red's Toy Store in Brooklyn. If anybody,
that's what I was going to ask you about Red's, because that's like before we met at a comic book store or a comic convention, we could have met at Red's, right? Because that was like a common ground for us.
Red's. If you're facing Red's, to the left was an aquarium for many years, a place to buy fish and fish products for your aquariums. At the end of the block on the right, the very long block, that section of Brooklyn, I would go to the corner store, and that was my secondary place for comics. It was a pharmacy newsstand. You can get egg creams and malteds. That was my favorite walk. Hit the places for comics, go to Red's, walk around, wish I could buy stuff. I don't remember ever buying something there.
Right.
Azrak,
they would always have.
Lagoon.
They would always have. Red's would always have like toys that were, like, essentially remaindered. Right. They would always have toys that were just old, like not old, but like from 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, toy stores would do that back then. I mean, toy stores didn't get rid of that stock like they did. They don't blow it out. And there was less stuff then. Red's also had a big pool section. So they had a large building. My dad got me the Mego catalogs back then. And I wish I didn't cut them up. I cut them up and made little figures of the characters. I put them on cardboard and shit. I mean,
are you talking about the Heroes World? Those Heroes World
No, these were the Mego.
Oh, okay.
No, these were the actual Mego promotional catalogs to toy stores.
Okay.
But I remember staring at they had the Topper Dinglings, which I had a few of, which I absolutely loved. The Megos, which I just was mad about. I didn't care that Mego superheroes were off model. I loved them.
Yeah.
And
I had
Star Trek Mego. I didn't have DC. If my friend Michael gave me two of them that he had that were not in great shape. Aquaman was missing his hand, so I made him Claw, Master of Sound. And And then I made Captain Marvel. Oh no, I think Captain Marvel was missing the thing, so I made him Claw, and then I made in '77 Star Wars came out, so I made Aquaman Luke Skywalker, and I made Kirk Han Solo, and I made one of the Planet of the Apes generals, Chewbacca. It's weird how you can remember this shit 30, 40 years later. Yeah, 40 years later. But toys were so rare.
Yeah.
In a way.
Here's another question.
God, yeah.
So, no love for Sergio Leone's Westerns, Evan. Those desert vistas look beautiful. So, spaghetti
They
Westerns.
do, but I have never gotten into spaghetti Westerns. I've seen most of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and I yes, they're beautifully shot. I have not been able to get into them because when I was a kid, I didn't like Westerns, and I'm not kidding. Deserts always seemed, no pun intended, dry and arid, and they made me feel like it was going to be French Foreign Legion, or I didn't even like the Abbott and Costello joined the French Foreign Legion movie because the desert just is always the same movie for me. But you're right, those are beautiful vistas. I just have never watched the movies. It's something that I'm going to remedy one day. It took me forever to get into giallo and to really appreciate it and understand the rules of the game. But there's crossover to spaghetti westerns and whatnot, and one of these days I know I'm going to fall that way. Paul and Brian, have you guys seen? I'm not. This is a black hole for me. It's a hole in my club.
Yeah, one of my biggest gaps in movie watching is westerns, but I've seen all the Sergio Leone films. I love them. I think they're really great, even though they tend to be slow in parts. My main problems with spaghetti westerns in general is I think they all begin great. They have a great beginning, a horrible, boring middle, and a good ending. So as movies, I don't find them very interesting. So as I try, I hear about all that you got to watch The Silence. You've got to watch this one. You've got to watch that one. And they just bore me in the middle. They just bore me to death. Leone, brilliant. I mean, I watched, Brian, you've sat through the Once Upon a Time in America, right? The long cut of that.
Yeah.
It's insane. There's a richness to his movies that are worth watching, but
I just watched it recently, actually.
Yeah.
I don't believe I've seen a Leone film all the way through.
Yeah.
It's a genre that unless it's a campy Western, like a Gene, like singing cowboy stuff, and it's like 56 minutes.
Like Rustler's Rhapsody?
No. No Rustler's Rhapsody. No The Bad Guy or whatever that. No, what's the other one? I'm not big on Westerns in general. But again, a lot of Westerns it's really weird. I mean, I as a kid, I really gravitated towards movies that took place in urban areas, Los Angeles, New York, London. I liked films about cities. I liked comedies or small towns even, but I find Westerns and films that take place in I also don't like movies that take place in the jungle. There's just a certain story that it always ends up seeming to be because you're limited by what you can do. You can't quite make in a town or in a city, you can make a wide variety of films. In the desert, literally can't.
Yeah, I'm always drawn to like Lumet and Friedkin and that more than I am the famous Western directors, right? Yeah, that's it.
I like movies that place in forests and no, I'm serious. This is the thing I've actually thought of. Mountains. I like folklore movies. I like folklore. I like forests. I love woods, springs, lakes, oceans. I'm okay with that. A film is about a lot of people walking in the sand, and I just they might be fantastic, and I don't go near them. And Westerns, those beautiful vistas, those skies, they look beautiful and dull to me. Like, I'd rather be there and look at these beautiful John Ford skies than watch a movie with these beautiful John Ford skies. That's just, it's a weird way that my brain processes a certain kind of way some people will not go near an opera, you know? It just does not appeal to them. But I should watch the Leone films at some point. But I really have a terrible... It's like we were talking to our friend, he couldn't believe that I haven't watched any Marvel movies. When it's like, it's not like I sit there, I'm not watching any Marvel movies. I'm not going to watch Breaking Bad. I'm not going to watch Game of Thrones. It's just the way it worked out. I just did not have the pull to finally get me off my ass to see that. When I sit in front of Netflix, I really kind of just want to watch a monster movie, a horror movie, maybe a noir, maybe a food film. That's just where I am these years.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are genres I just can't get into right now.
Well, here's a question that to bring up Ken Hart again. Have you seen the bizarre Spanish horror Blind Dead zombie film? Ken, I love you, but your taste.
Paul, you don't like it.
I fucking hate these movies.
He loves them.
I hate them. I hate them.
Are these the Zombie Knight Templars?
Yes. I was made to watch these. Yeah. Gunner Mike made me watch these because he was such a fan of them. I loathe these movies. No, he didn't bake me. No, banana bread. No. They did. First of all, I'm not a fan of Hammer films. They literally just don't work for me. There's a handful we've talked about before: Brides of Dracula. I'm sure another one, but I just don't like them. I just don't like their style, their pacing, the acting, the stories. I just can't get into them at all, ever.
So what does that have to do with the Blind Dead? Come on.
Because Ken's the blind. What is the blind? The blind stuff is just these guys in rags walking around. You know, they're just these linked stories.
They're very slow zombie movies.
Yeah, you know that zombie that pre-Romero What a Zombie Means movies. You know, they're just dirty, costumed people stalking you. You know.
The thing that's weird about them, they always seem. I've seen, I think, 2 of them. They always seem to start with them doing. I don't know much about the Knights Templar. They are terrible. The funniest thing is that the first one ends like children shouldn't play with dead things except on a train.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Knights Templars who are just shuffling. Nobody just goes, "There's some really fucking dirty Spaniards coming towards this train." Maybe they have swords. They ride horses sometimes, which is not scary at all, in slow motion. Somehow, I don't know why they were so popular. I mean, is there some Catholic sentiment, pro or con? I don't know enough about the Knights Templar.
I don't think there's a legend about boring guys in rags crawling out of ships. You know, I don't think that fits into anything. I think they're just.
I think in the first one they just crawl out of a cheap to film at tomb, literally. You know, and the thing is, they don't move. They're not even like an Italian horror movie where there's craziness. There's really nothing too memorable about it, and you know, there is some like half-naked girls and exploitation angle as well that might have made them successful. I don't know much about Spanish 1960s, 70s filmmaking, but there was a lot in the first one of women getting their clothes pulled off and guys vying for the women and a lot of machismo, and then very slow moving, rotting, Monty Python and the Holy Grail zombies walking around. And they have to you kind of have to trip into them to get killed, that type of thing. That's kind of like wrapping the octopus arms around you. They're very boring, but they made 5 of them. I've seen 2, I think. I'll probably watch the other 3 because I'm an idiot. But
yeah, they stay.
Yeah,
thanks for reminding us. This is a great question, actually. Favorite horror movie made that takes place close to your parts of town. Staten Island actually has a few memorable horror movie scenes
or
and
locations.
locations. Yeah, you've got Sisters, the Brian De
Sisters take
Palma.
place mostly on Staten Island.
Right. I always say the name wrong. The Tom Hanks, it's He Knows You're Alone.
What's the Tom Hanks one with He Knows You're Alone?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking up now to make sure it's that.
I've never seen that one, but everybody got excited because you can see the Lane Theater. If you watch He Knows You're Alone, that's one of the theaters that we used to always go to movies at on Staten Island, the Lane. It's a single theater, older theater. It's a church now. What else? Andy Milligan, all the Andy Milligan films, not all of them.
Yeah.
Most Andy Milligan films were shot here on Staten Island.
Right, and actually, there are houses, Evan, that are walking distance from your house right now, and He Knows You're Alone.
Really? No, I didn't.
Yeah, I believe.
I know that Sisters takes place not far from here. They're on Bay Street and a few other places. What else is The Purge? Didn't The Purge prequel take place on Staten Island?
I believe it does.
A horror movie?
Yeah.
Is that one of your faves?
It's really scary.
No.
Sarah was telling me about The Purge supposedly launches on Staten Island, and we were like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, given the people out here and that you could bomb the bridges or whatever, that's kind of scary. I'd have to say Sisters, because I can't think of one that I like other than that.
Yeah, I think
the Milligan film. Terrible.
Yeah.
Combat Shock.
Combat
takes place
Shock.
on Staten.
Yes.
If that's a horror movie, I don't know.
Yeah, yes, it does. It has a mutant child in it. Combat Shot is interesting because it was made by someone who taught film class at the College of Staten Island, and it also stars some people that we know in it. There's
Mitch Maglio.
Mitch Maglio, who we know from the comic book scene. I met him before Jim Hanley's Universe in another comic book store, and
really.
Where
was that? Was that
at the place on Forest? The guy who would laminate everything. I forget the name of the place. His whole thing is he would rip nice images out of magazines and comic books and laminate them. And he would say, I could laminate that for you. He would want to laminate. He would go, I'd go, that's really nice. He goes, I could also laminate that for you. I forget the name of that store.
This isn't the actor though.
No, Mitch Maglio has worked. He worked in that store. He worked at
When Jim left the Fantastic Store, he became a manager with the old. We should do a talk on comic book stores. That we know from New York. All three of us have worked at several stores and gone to many.
Oh God,
there's a lot of stories out there.
Here's the interesting thing. Oh wait, sorry, this wasn't the. I was doing the alternate realms, right? Alternate realms. We know the people that originally owned that store and then bought it later, and Staten Island is very incestuous.
Alternate Realms is on the other side of the train tracks from where Jim Hanley's Universe is, right? That's the store that Pete.
I went to high school and college with Pete Dimitri. He originally opened it, and then we know Ivan.
A lot of people think that's Jim Hanley's Universe.
Right. No.
I get that all the time when people talk to me about the pilot, the Eltingville pilot. They go, oh, so you were at all, and I go, no, we were on the other side of the tracks, and Jim's store had moved by the time Alternate Realm you were going there. I think because they would not have, nobody would have had two comic stores within a block of each other. Nobody's even that stupid in our industry.
The famous comic book shop Boulevard of Staten Island.
Yeah, but I'd have to say Sisters. Combat Shock is really interesting, but I don't really like it. I think that it got a lot of good reviews in it, like Chris Gore and people like that. Psychotronic were really fascinated with it. I'm not saying they're wrong, but it was it was a lot more interesting and of its time. It was made on a shoestring. It's really harsh. It's really depressing, and gross, but it's got a lot of cartoony aspects to it that just don't work. It's like that's another thing about coming back to Neon Maniacs. Neon Maniacs is too serious to be a comedy and too funny to be serious. It doesn't handle it wants to have a real horror movie in there, and then it wants to be jerky, and it just doesn't decide. So it leaves you with nothing. Combat Shock is almost two-dimensional at times, but it's not as it's got a lot of influence by Eraserhead and things like that. It's dreary. It's intentionally dreary. It's definitely worth seeing. Also, Staten Island. I mean, he used real locations, shot without permits, I'm sure. I mean, it's not far from where Staten Island looks like a fucking gravel pit. But it feels like bombs blew up. It's awful looking.
Yeah.
But
It's
7 years.
The thing with these films is going back and rewatching them, you really get a sense of nostalgia. I'm a second generation Staten Islander. So, these movies, I grew up in these times and I remember these areas and it really brings me back. Brian, I was going to ask, is there any, I'm thinking, Brooklyn area, not good, like horror films, not the good movies that were made.
Oh, necessarily. There's a scene from Maniac on Staten Island.
I don't know. I don't know if there's any real, there's certainly not anywhere that I lived, like certainly like Midwood, Brooklyn, there's not a rich history of horror films shot there.
It's weird, isn't it? You'd think there'd be more Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn is big enough to be a city on its own. It's got a lot of varied locations. It's famous, but everybody somehow.
There's got to be a Coney Island. There's got to be a good Coney Island horror film.
Well, you got The Warriors, but that's not really a horror film.
Not a horror film, yeah.
Yeah. What the fuck? Does anybody know of anybody out there?
Yeah, someone said Vampire in Brooklyn. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Wes Craven. He's a master of modern horror, Paul.
My God.
Is the Sentinel set in Brooklyn?
Every time I look.
Well, you've got that. Yeah, that's where the apartment is.
Right.
The Sentinel is so good. It's such a creepy movie.
You think so?
Yeah.
You like the Sentinel?
Yes, I like the Sentinel a lot. I think it's very disturbing. It's very it's just
it's
weird.
Disturbing, but I think it's just 2 clicks under the Manitou in silliness, to be honest.
Oh no, it's so much better than the Manitou.
No, that's agreed. I think that I think it's really dull, and I think that having a cast of actors that you recognize throws me off of it. I think Burgess. I see Burgess Meredith. I'm just not scared because I feel comfortable with these actors, and all the actors are known.
See, that's a very interesting point. Lately, I've been hearing more and more people talk about the horror films they think are great and they love, with a barometer of how much it frightened them and how horrific it is. Look, things frighten me constantly, but horror films don't frighten me. It's a sense of unease and a sense of weirdness and a sense of wrongness that gets me. There's nothing frightening about the Sentinel, but I wouldn't want to be in that apartment. It was cheap too. I remember Stevie and I watching it, and it was like the rent was ridiculous. Yeah. Portal to Hell, who gives a fuck?
You could put Portal to Hell in the freaking ad, and people would line up. They'd fight over it. Portal to Hell, who gives a shit? There's a doorman. There's a freaking doorman.
Gas stove, I'm in.
The floor isn't that 45-degree angle sagging. I remember when I was looking for apartments in Manhattan, Sarah and I, we had a ball. We had a rubber ball. We put it there, and it would roll downhill in some of these fucking apartments as if they were ramps. That's how bad they were off 2nd Avenue. We're like, it felt like the floors were going to collapse. But a good apartment with Portal to Hell and Burgess Meredith.
Heat included?
And Brain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, great view. Much worth it.
And the neighbors are eating brains, but they invite you in and give you food.
Yeah.
What the hell?
The book.
I don't find the Sentinel.
Okay.
The Sentinel's creepy because they put a lot of actually deformed people into makeup and prosthetics to play demons. I just feel like, to me, the Sentinel is neither fish nor fowl. It's not an Italian. It's not the Beyond, and it's not. I don't know what American thing I'm thinking of. It just doesn't.
Right.
It just didn't move me.
For me, it actually. it gets to that for me. I've actually, that's something that every once in a while I don't mind rewatching. It's just it's weird.
It's one of the first things I watched on Netflix, and I just never wanted to revisit it. It just fell right out of my brain. I just
You're wrong.
Okay,
you're just wrong.
Okay, I got you.
The book that it's based on.
You watch Curse of the Blue Lights.
The book that it's based on is something that always like scared me, or like the idea of the book was always like very like hot, very just a scary idea that there's this like it's like a blind priest or a nun or something on the cover of the book behind a window, and then it was like one of those like cut out books, and so there's two covers, and there was the window, and then you'd open the window, and then there'd be the full image.
Yeah, it's like Audrey Rose, Ryan, like Audrey Rose.
Yeah.
The covers are terrifying.
Yeah, it was, and you would see that book at every single paperback book shop. Yeah,
they did a great job. Whoever was designing those, they were beautiful. Those, you would open it up, and then the person who had the mirror, they'd be the skeleton or some crazy thing like that. The Sentinel idea does terrify me. It really ties into a very Italian horror of Fulci. The idea that there's this building and it's a portal to hell. Somebody has to be there to fulfill this role so that it doesn't encroach on humanity, and it's very depressing and blah blah. And the people in the building are all affected, or I can't remember exactly what the deal was. They weren't demons necessarily, but they were like part of a cult, or they were just effed up for. But the idea that this it's that Rosemary's Baby thing. I mean, I've never seen the whole movie because
that comes up with our next question.
Yeah.
What's your
Polanski's Polanski's tough to talk about these days. But that aside, I've never seen The Tenant. The book is supposed to be fantastic. Of the Tenant. I've never seen Repulsion. I'm really bad on a lot of that stuff. I've never seen The Ninth Configuration. I've never seen. Oh wait, no, he didn't do that. He did
that's Walter Peter Blatty.
He did the book one. What's the Ninth Gate? The Seventh Gate?
Yes. The something gate. Yeah. The movie that was supposed to be the greatest comeback in horror, and it was just kind of dopey.
Nobody went to see it. I never saw Rosemary's Baby because for me that movie was kind of the impact of it was blown. It's an early Sixth Sense where if you knew the ending, and they would constantly have TV shows that would show you the last scenes of that one, and everybody tells you the ending. So I've never wanted to watch it.
Even knowing it, I found Rosemary's Baby to be pretty scary. Actually, I think they do a lot of really effectively scary stuff in the movie.
As a kid,
in the way that Prince of Darkness is scary.
Yeah, as a kid, the idea of being trapped in this urban nightmare, and basically you're being gaslit by everybody, and you're being controlled by your husband. It terrified me. The idea that your baby could be changed, or that you would give. Rosemary's Baby terrifies me as an idea. I'm sure the movie's super creepy. I just haven't. I did not like the Fearless Vampire Killers at all.
Yeah,
I think it's a beautifully shot, boring, unfunny. Even to watch Sharon Tate for an hour or a half hour, I don't think he's a good actor, and he's in it relentlessly. I just think it's an absolutely unfunny movie, but it looks gorgeous, beautifully shot. The locations are amazing. I never understood the appeal of that film past the production values.
Right. I have actually seen those movies, the Apartment trilogy or whatever they call it. Those, because you have Repulsion, you have Rosemary's Baby, and you have The Tenant. I think Repulsion is very creepy. There's a lot of things that just are very uncomfortable. I've only seen it once in the theater during Film Forum when we were having that 100 movies in 1997. So we were seeing as many movies as you can, and it's very creepy and disturbing. Rosemary's Baby, I think, is arguably one of the greatest horror films ever made. I think it's beautiful. It's disturbing. I have hated John Cassavetes all my life because of that and him in Columbo. Columbo
is why I hate him.
Yeah, I hate him. And the
But
tenant.
I don't hate him as much now because Gwyneth Paltrow is such a fuck that I don't mind that he received the Blythe Danner.
Well, I got you a vagina candle, so I don't know what to do now. The tenant is.
I'll take it.
It's interesting as a watch to go through it. It's got some interesting shots. It's got some weirdness in it, but I think it ultimately fails. It's not great. And I hate Fearless Vampire.
Empty film. No screenplay, no, nothing to it. And it's got a lot of elements that I would like. I mean, it's got Russia and the snow and these beautiful castles and all these people and the peasants, and the joke with the Jewish vampire was funny at the time, I'm sure, but it's very dated. And it just, yeah. Brian, what have you seen of those three?
I've seen Rosemary's Baby. And,
I should watch it just because.
Yeah, you should.
Something.
I like you said though. I also think they're difficult films to watch, and it's difficult to talk about his career. It's hard, there's some great performances in it, but at the same time, if you never watched another Roman Polanski film, the world is not going to be worse for it.
Right.
Exactly.
And if you watch him, don't give him any money.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
No.
Much like many of the books written from inside the current administration, steal that book.
Steal that book.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
I have another question. Did I lose it? It's one. Oh, where the hell is this? Here we go.
Any love for the Val Lewton films? I've always really dug The Body Snatcher. Accidental pun, but I'm happy with it. It is a good one. I love Val Lewton's films. I forget who Lewton is the producer, right? And different directors. I think Robert Florey. I cannot remember exactly. Did Val Lewton produce Curse of the Demon? I can't remember.
I'm looking that up now.
Oh, it's just like Cat People. I Walked with the Zombie.
Cat People, Curse of the Cat People. Just atmospheric. The Val Lewton touch is to not show something because of budget, but also he realized that your imagination will fill in more fear, more creepy stuff. So you get scenes like in The Leopard Man, where the child is trying to get inside the house, and the mother thinks the child is lying, saying that the killer is there, and then the child stops banging the door and blood seeps in, which is just terrific. You're filling it. They're not showing gore. They're not showing horror. You're filling it in. The scene where the walking scene in Cat People, the bus is the jump scare. The pool scene in Cat People. I didn't see the photo. So did he produce Curse of the Demon?
I'm not seeing that unless I'm missing it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. That's fine. But I mean, Curse of the Demon has that element in that the British version, you don't see the demon at the end. You're supposed to, it's all suggested. I love Val Lewton films. Yeah, Body Snatch is terrific. Boris Karloff is great in that. I Walked with the Zombie is moody and swell and short, not as racist as it could have been. Cat People swell. Curse of the Cat People is a really strange film. A lot of people don't like it because it's a switch on what you expect. Sarah and I watched it years ago, and it's a really terrific fantasy film. It's not a Cat People movie, even though it's got a character that relates to cat people. But it really is a Christmas kids, kind of a Bradbury-esque ghost story with a sense of wonder and really some beautiful imagery. I think he's also responsible for The Seventh Curse.
Yes.
Which is amazing. The Seventh Curse has one of my favorite scenes two of my favorite scenes in any thriller or psychological horror movie. The Seventh Curse is about
No, I'm sorry. Seventh Victim.
Seventh Victim. That's what I mean. That's it. Seventh Curse is Italian fact. Seventh curse is Chow Yun-fat, an extra gets hit by a Jeep.
Yeah, in a car accident. It looks like somebody really got fucked up. Yeah.
Seventh Victim is amazing. If you like cat people, you will probably love Seventh Victim. Seventh Victim, the horror elements, the supernatural aspects of it are dialed down to the point where you don't even know if there's anything supernatural going on. But it is about a cultist, kind of Rosemary's Baby-like. It's about upscale cultists in the middle of the city. There is a scene that is there's a shower scene that, it's not going to knock your eyes out if you've seen, Combat Shock and shit like that. But it is so well done. It's got noir elements in a film about cultists, depression, suicide. I love it. And it's got a really enigmatic ending. I don't think it did well. It's got George Sanders' brother is in it. He's also in Cat People. Tom. I don't remember. The guy who played the Falcon after he gave up the role, but it's good.
Tom Conway?
Tom Conway, yeah. Yeah, not Tim Conway. There's no Dorf.
Well, Tom Conway is what's his name's brother, isn't he? He's
George Sanders, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can't afford George Sanders, you get Tom Conway.
Right.
And then you knife him usually. But literally he plays George Sanders' brother in the Falcon movies. When George Sanders quits, he says, "Please kill me off," and Tom Conway literally is in that movie and takes the mantle of the Falcon, which is pretty funny. But yeah, Val Lewton, big fan. I mean, it's the other end. If you're talking about movies, usually people who will talk, if they say how much gore are you showing or this or that, the two ends of the spectrum seems to kind of be gut munchers on the one hand, and Val Lewton on the other hand, where you have suggestion taking the place of showing monsters. He turned atmosphere and no budget into a plus by having intelligent scripts and interesting. Jacques Tourneur may have worked for him. That's why I'm thinking of Curse of the Demon, I think. So yeah, I'm good on that stuff. I like that stuff. I know you like Curse of the Demon, right, Paul?
Oh, I love Curse of the Demon. I love both versions of Curse of the Demon. But to be really, but I have issues. We all know my issues with certain older movies. There's a certain, if they close the door and the whole wall shakes, I'm beginning to feel like I don't know if that's for me.
How did you watch Doctor Who as a kid then?
Religiously, I don't know.
It's like
there's a stunted, the films that get to me when I really started watching films and I started appreciating the films. It was originally people like Hitchcock and stuff like that, and I'm more prone to like 70s type of acting and construction of stuff. So older films just feel very dated for me. I mean, look, I love the Thin Man films. It's not that I can't watch them, but especially with horror, it's very hard. You go, oh, this is the best horror film from 1943. I balk at that for some reason.
Well, most of them stink. It's because most of everything stinks. I find that being able to watch them, the black and white, and the way a lot of them are made. Thank you. Thanks, Ken. Turner did Curse of the Demon and Cat People. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, they both have that sensibility. Shadow, sound, using sound. God, I love Curse of the Demon. Yeah, I mean, there's. I think part of it is because I grew up watching them pretty regularly. I was hooked on old movies because they were all on TV, and so I could go from watching Welcome Back, Kotter to the Flash Gordon serials to Godzilla to the Giant Claw to Forbidden Planet. It jumped all around. I find them now they almost look like dreams. The black and white photography, the stiltedness, the sets. So it's kind of like it's a theatrical approach that I'm able to adjust to. But certainly older movies that scared me as a kid or unnerved me as a kid, like House on a Haunted Hill, I look at them now and I'm like, this is not good. I do not like I really don't like William Castle movies. I don't really like most Corman movies, things like that.
Right.
They really look.
right? When you're a kid and you taste something spicy, it can be like black pepper, and you're like, "Ooh, that's spicy." And then as you get more exposure to stuff.
I'm terrible with spice. I mean, I appreciate it, but
Bad analogy.
I'm like, I didn't eat a lot of spicy food. And now mainly what I'm eating these days is knishes and hot dogs. So
knishes.
No spicy meatballs. No William. Yes, I know he was. Yeah, William Castle produced Rosemary's Baby. He's still a big fucking lying no talent.
Yeah, I think he's. I think he got that from
his
Hitchcock.
book.
I think Hitchcock wanted to option Rosemary's Baby, and he got him. Is that? Am I thinking of something else, or Diabolique or something?
Castle's a terrific hustler, but he is such a fucking liar. I tried reading his book. I'm going to scare America, something like that. He is so full of himself. I just couldn't get through it. I threw the book against the wall. I recycled it. And for me not to be able to get through some schmuck, but I don't like his movies enough to have to sit through his self-aggrandizement, if that word is correct. He's like, it's like reading a book. The hell was that? Stop that. Damn you. It's like reading a book from a wrestler who will not go past kayfabe. So he's like, Bruno Sammartino or something like that. I was not in the best shape during this, but it was preordained who was winning. Andre the Giant won because he was supposed to win, Bruno. It's fake. I can't read books by people who keep kayfabe all the way through. And it's like William Castle keeps kayfabe and he lies about shit. He, I did this and I was going to screw this one and Rita Hayworth was shut the fuck up. Be happy with your money, William Castle. Oh God. I've never seen Bug. Has anybody seen Bug? That scared me as a kid because that was contemporary to when I was a kid.
Yeah, I watched Bug a long time ago, and I went to rewatch it with Stevie a couple of months ago, and it was just grossing me out too much. I just didn't want to watch Bugs. You're talking about the bugs that come from the center of the earth that explode.
And they burn people. They get on them and then they burn them.
Right.
I'd rather have the bug burn on me than be on me. I'd rather die than have a hissing cockroach. It's a great idea for a movie. It's just so simple. Bugs from beneath the earth that burst into flames.
Yeah, how come everybody hasn't done that? Ken has a question. He thinks that Mask of the Red Death holds up. I have a fondness for watching the Corman Poe cycle because I grew up watching that on the 4:30 movie.
Matheson has a lot to do with those. I like the Matheson Corman movies. I like Mask of the Red Death. The others, some of them are almost a little Hammer-like in places because they really didn't have the money to pull off. Actually, they're not Hammer-like because the Hammer has better period because they actually have locations and stuff. Corman trying to do Hammer in America really stunk. Those cardboard sets for Tomb of Ligeia and things like that. But I mean, you got Vincent Price, you got Matheson. The art direction on Mask of the Red Death is terrific. That's probably the best one, I would say. What's the one? The one's like one of them's funny because it was sold as a Poe film. It's actually
the Lovecraft.
It's actually Lovecraft.
Yeah, it's the case of Charles Dexter Ward. The Haunted something or other.
Haunted Castle.
Yeah.
I think that's the Haunted Castle. Very generic title, but I guess they wanted it to sound more like Poe.
Okay, we got this going, so let's just answer this question so people figure out what we're talking about. It's a 1975 film.
What Bug it.
Yeah. So
I think it's also called the Hephaestus Plague. I never knew how to pronounce it as a kid. Hephaestus. And it's wow. It's about giant bugs that come up and they stick them on actors who need work because they're getting older, and then the bugs burst into flames.
Was Henry Fonda in this?
and
Olivia de Havilland. The thing about the film was that I think it was the last Castle film that had a gimmick. William Castle was the guy who's more famous for the gimmick that sold his movies than the movies. For The Tingler with Vincent Price, which is the first film that has LSD in it, I believe. The Tingler is a creature that if you scream, you can get it out of your system, literally. It's a parasitic creature that grows when you're afraid. And I believe one of the characters in the movie is mute. So if she's terrified, she can't get the Tingler. The Tingler kind of looks like a rubber lobster. And,
I always think of a silverfish, a giant silverfish.
Yeah, that works too. And the shtick for the Tingler was that the Tingler gets out into the theater. When you're watching the movie, somebody actually stops the movie, or there's a voiceover that says, "The Tingler is loose." I think Vincent Price says, "The Tingler is loose in the theater."
Scream!
Everyone must scream. It gets people to actually start screaming in the movie theater together, which gets everybody else screaming because it's a chain reaction. So you're supposed to scream because the trailer for the Tingler basically tells you everything you need to know. 13 Ghosts, which was remade as a splatter film in the 90s, you got free glasses. And if you look through one side, you don't see anything in the movie. And if you look through the other lens, it shows you the ghosts because they were shot in a pseudo 3D effect. So you get to see the ghost of a guy with a whip, the ghost of a lion, which is the funniest goddamn ghost. You have to have all 13 ghosts. It's a terrible movie. Emergo was the gimmick used for House on a Haunted Hill, which a skeleton was put on a wire and pops out of a doorway and goes down the middle row of the theater to get everybody to scream like lunatics. And they'd have other gimmicks. He kicked off all these big gimmicks where people would have sickness bags, insurance policies in case you died. Well, a nurse with an ambulance would be out in the front. One of the interesting things is that people say that Joe Dante's movie Matinee is based on William Castle's life and career. It's a cute movie. John Sayles actually acts in it. John Goodman's in it. Dick Miller. It takes place in Florida. John Goodman is the William Castle character. Comes to town with The Mant, which is a very funny film within a film. But supposedly Castle didn't even actually put these things in the theaters. They only went in 1 or 2 or 3 theaters, so they could say that they've done it. And they would make films of fake audiences flipping out or whatever. So like Chicago, New York, and LA might get Emergo.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, which was a...
Nobody else really gets it. Like, oh.
Right. I saw Tingler. I saw Tingler when it had the Emergo, whatever that was called, the gimmick. And what it was is they would take a certain number of seats and just put a little buzzing motor under to scare you.
Yeah, that was the Tingler. Yeah, that's right. That was the Tingler.
Right?
Freak out and scream. Bug. So the shtick with Bug, which I believe was his last gimmick movie, Bug was supposed to have windshield wiper devices underneath the seats. So when the cockroaches start coming out from beneath the earth, the windshield wiper with a brush attachment would be turned on by the person who turns that shit on, and you would have these bug-like brushy things going against your ankles, about where your shoes were to get your socks or whatever, or and people were supposed to start flipping out. There is a British, there is a British radio ad for Bug, which is the funniest, fakest. We hired actors to sound like they're, and it's people supposedly running out of the movie theater screaming, "Get them off me, get them off." You will feel the bugs. I have never heard anybody say they've seen Bug or liked the movie, though. Unlike 13, I know people have watched the other ones. I've never heard anything about Bug. It's a weird, forgotten, disaster-like movie. So I don't think it did well. But there you go. They should show bees and actually release bees in the theater. That's not hard to do.
Right.
You will actually see bees. And that's it. Bees. Fucking bees.
Or just shoot people with BBs. Just shoot people with BBs.
I was just going to give them honey, but your guys' idea is
the bee. No. You got to give them bees, like that. That Oprah Winfrey meme. I brought you bees. Just let bees out. It'd be hard to get the bees out, but who cares? Yeah. Who cares? Anything that shows the bees.
We're not letting people in for the next showing yet. We're smoking the theater still.
All right. There's some guy with the.
All the theaters are covered in tarps, and there's guys in EPA outfits. Shit, the fucking bees.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, John Saxon. The bees are so good. Do we have any other questions?
No.
Was there anything
Oh, well.
anybody wants to?
Well, Roger thinks we could throw frogs at people if we watch Frogs.
Frogs
is terrible.
I've seen Frogs twice, and I don't know why. Yeah, any movie with Ray Milland in the '70s is depressing. He's not in good shape.
Yeah.
And he's often in a wheelchair. And Frogs is him being he really looks like he's in a bad mood, not happy. And the worst is when he has a cameo in Battlestar Galactica as a guy on the floor. You remember he's in the pilot, the 3-hour pilot, and they go to talk to him because he's supposed to be some important figure because the meta is it's Ray Milland, and he's wearing a robe and he's kind of sitting there like the way the zombies in Dawn of the Dead in the bottom of the apartment building were eating people. He's just kind of splayed out. You expect him to just pick up a leg and just start chewing on urban resident's leg, and it's like really he's just like and he's pretty much the same character he is in Frogs. And the other movies that he's in, I forget. He's in some other bad horror movies in the '70s. Frogs is. I haven't seen all the ecological nightmare movies. I've never seen Grizzly. I have seen Food of the Gods, which is terrible. I've never seen Food of the Gods 2, which was also called Stop Eating That. I believe it was called Stop Eating That Food.
Stop feeding the goo to the animals. There's no reason to feed the goo to the animals. You know?
More big bugs. I didn't see Day of the. I haven't seen Day of the Animals. I did see Empire of the Ants. I saw Empire of the Ants on a twin bill with Food of the Gods, in fact, and that has Joan Collins in it. That's real bad. Those were all American Empire, if I remember correctly. American Empire films. They had a lot of rear projection stuff where they would just take the animal and blow it up and stick it in there, and it looked terrible.
Yeah.
The color. And I think, the guy from the guy from Prophecy, Robert, not Forster. Oh God, he's terrible. He's really boring. He's, I believe, in Empire of the Ants also. So he's in 2 eco horrors. He's very dull. He's got one of those hair and beard combinations that looks like you could turn his head upside down and his face would be like an unhappy version of himself. He's got like the beard is the same as his hair because the 70s, burly. Hey, what the hell was his name? Robert. He's so dull. I can't remember his. But he's in a bunch of bad films. Yeah, you see, I was sort of right. I thought he was on the floor.
He looks tired.
Human trafficking. He looks like he's selling people. Boy, did I love Battlestar Galactica. I saw Battlestar Galactica in the theater when they started showing it after it aired. Yeah. The pilot, they showed it in Senseround. And, you knew Jane Seymour was going to die because she was a guest star. Savvy.
Yeah. Here's another question. Opinion on Kolchak, the Night Stalker TV show. I love it, but it's not good. It's not.
We talked about it in an episode.
Yeah,
it's two good pilots, one great pilot, one good pilot, 2 or 3 fun good episodes, and then Kolchak is the only reason to watch it usually.
Yeah,
I've actually thought long and hard. I've thought long and hard about Kolchak because I started rewatching it on Netflix, and I was. Before we had the podcast, I was actually going to write an essay. I was just bored. And the thing about Kolchak that I was watching for was how did what kind of continuity did the show have? Because this was Star Trek continuity. This was, Man from U.N.C.L.E. continuity to a degree. Not even in that it's episodic. He doesn't talk about what happened ever. Just 2 weeks ago, Jack the Ripper's in my house. This week it's Spanish Moss murders. Then there's Chopper. The problem with it, it's Bear of the Week. The Outer Limits show coined the phrase, I think, Bear of the Week, because every week there was a different monster in Outer Limits. It was an anthology. And the biggest, unlike the Twilight Zone where the twist ending was the biggest thing, really, the big app in the Outer Limits was the cool monsters. They had crazy suits. They had the Xanthi Misfits were animated, which was amazing. And they were much more science fiction than the Twilight Zone. They didn't have fantasy episodes really, or horror, or crime, or just weird or super normal. Kolchak started from the Bear of the Week because there was no continuity. They had to come up with a monster for him every week, and they ran out real fast, and they didn't have the effects budget to do some of them right. The rubber mask for the Wolfman ruins that episode. It's also not a very good episode. The three things that don't work in Kolchak is, one, the lack of continuity means that nothing really feels like it has circumstance.
Evan, what had continuity back then? What TV show though had continuity?
Well, here's the thing, Brian. Yeah, but the Klingons did come back in Star Trek.
Sure. Okay, that's fair.
Miguelito Loveless was still a villain in Wild Wild West.
But the vampire, there is a connection. There is one connection. There's the vampire from the original movie from Las Vegas. One of his victims does come in an episode, so there is a little continuity. But I think
Simon Oakland. There's the continuity of Simon Oakland being his boss, but the only continuity really is that he makes fun of Ron Updike. He talks to the old lady who does the newspaper. I mean, you don't even believe that the INF is a real news service. They
that's
fire
a problem.
all the extras.
Yeah, that's the problem, because when you watch the original TV movies,
watching the show from the beginning, they actually try to make the INF a real place. There are many more extras. There are actually some continuing characters. A woman who is Simon Oakland's niece, I believe, who's in a few episodes, who has a large role in an episode but then is still around. You don't have the old lady who does the crossword puzzles. You have a guy who works the morgue, who he talks to a lot. He runs the newspaper morgue, and he goes to him for information. They have extras. People go to lunch in the background. There are people at the desks. Like the back of the Mary Tyler Moore show, they would always have a few people back there. They lose that. They literally lose like 10 people who are just being paid as extras. So the place looks abandoned all the time and doesn't ever feel like a real news service with a budget. Tony will come back from a meeting and he'll have 3 people with him and they'll leave. It's just awful. Chicago becomes a problem because you just can't have a monster every week in Chicago, and they realize that, so they start sending him to Los Angeles and these other places. You don't believe that he could do this traveling for this shoestring budgeted AP wire place. They use a different the guest stars are a big thing of like a lot of 70s shows. So you'll have the guy who played the inspector on the Hal Linden cop series, Inspector Luger. I can't remember his name. James. He's the
good human is a dead human.
So one week he's the chief of police. The next week the chief of police is like Claude Akins. The next week he's another guy you've heard of. The fact that he doesn't have somebody to battle in the police department really fucks up the show. Sure. He should have. I mean, everybody hates him, so he sees different police lieutenants, different angry industrialists who are met him. The hospital. There could have been a continuity in him battling the police. He could have continued to see the people he sees in the early episodes. There is he goes to see a black spiritualist in the zombie episode. He could have gone back to these people as reference when he fights the occult.
You're not looking for it to have been an arc of story necessarily over multiple episodes, but just some acknowledgement that one character fills the same role from episode to an episode.
Well, no, I think that there should have been a continuity because it's what killed him. He didn't have a major villain like most shows do have. He didn't have Klingons, Romulans. He didn't have the one-armed man. He didn't have Wo Fat from Hawaii Five-0, a recurrent Miguelito Loveless in Wild Wild West. He did not have an evil organization like Man from U.N.C.L.E. So it was just a wandering loose. It was just destined to be spread too thin instantly, to the point where then they end up with a demon worshiping Tom Skerritt running for Congress, senator, by a motorcyclist without a head that's chopping people's heads off. I mean, they didn't know how to fill the gaps. That's why X-Files is influenced by, a lot of things are influenced by Kolchak, but understood that you had to have a center. Even if I don't like X-Files, there are through lines for why you should keep watching the show. He's not just going to find a werewolf this week, a fluke man next week, a UFO the week after. But Kolchak didn't live and breathe in a period where we would now go back and are able to say, here's what was wrong with. Also, they cut the budget on it. He's a fantastic character. He fought for that show, Darren McGavin. He loved the character. The problem is him and Tony are great characters who don't get to really feel like they live in a real world. You get to see the same shots of him driving around Chicago and turning his radio up. The first two movies are rich because they've got Richard Matheson, and the next ones are just not. A lot of them are very dull, and he's the best thing in it. And
I think there's
they've tried to bring the character. They did remake it, but they made it sexy with 3 people instead of this bum.
And that story was revolving around Kolchak finding out who murdered his wife in a cult, and every monster then would be linked to that cult or something. My problem with Kolchak is,
isn't that like the same as Millennium?
Well, there's
Didn't he lose his wife?
times cult. Yeah, well, eventually in the series as it went on. But I think the problem with Kolchak is it's not written well. I think I could have accepted everything if it was just written a little better. If
it was more like Outer Limits, if the monsters were the series, obviously no budget because that's why they had guest stars. To spend 5 minutes 2 or 3 times in an episode to throw in a character actor like Dick Van Patten, who he just talks to about nonsense. He literally shows up to investigate something and talks to, here's Dick Van Patten from 8 is Enough. And here's Phil Silvers in the back of the car. It doesn't take itself seriously like the 2 movies. It's a sea change from these gritty, well-produced movies. They also lose the cop fights pretty quick. Throw the cops all over the place. They don't have them. They run out of money and they run out of steam, and the writing is shit.
I think
the first 5.
Yeah, I think Brian was also. I think Brian was also bringing up the fact that you thirsted, you wanted something for that. It filled the hell that you wanted when you were a kid.
There's some really creepy moments in most of them. Even if you look at them now as an adult and you go, the episode with the shape-shifting Indian demon is not very good, but there's still that creepy scene where Kolchak is going through the abandoned building while he's chanting. The Spanish Moss murder mystery is not as good as I remembered it as a kid, where it scared the crap out of me, but the creature's still pretty cool, and I did like the idea of it being this weird dream therapy projection. But most of the episode is him talking to fiddle players in New Orleans. It's fucking, to eat up it's all shot on sets. It's just, ugh. There's also an early character played by there's also an early character who is the morgue attendant for the police department that he goes to a lot and basically buys information from. Having those people around him would at least give it a basis of feeling like he had a team and that he could go somewhere to get information. They obviously just decided he should go visit a guest star from Who Needs Work, and it was the TV equivalents of Henry Fonda every week. And
William Conrad and
Phil Silvers.
The best episode, I believe, William Daniels plays. If I'm thinking this right, there's an episode, and you look at it and you go, why didn't they keep Claude Akins or William Daniels? They're playing off each other really well. They're basically doing and Inspector Luger, James. They're doing basically, I want to punch this fucking idiot in the white suit really bad. And you'd go like, let's get a Tony relationship, since him and Tony are now kind of frenemy. Let's get a guy in the police department who fucking hates him and rat fucks him once in a while. Now, if I would go back and if I was to go back, I would have done an episode where he finds out that there is nothing supernatural. Maybe he fucked up. Maybe he kills somebody by accident. because he's so used to killing whoever the person is that he thinks is a monster. And that plays, I mean, what if there's cultists or a conspiracy and that's why Chicago's a hotspot? You know, years later, they would have gone to this sort of thing, you know? But, I mean, no shows had a really good continuity. They either did Wagon Train or they did Maniacs, you know, bust a new crime. But it's really hard. You can understand Maniacs or Maverick or whoever. There's lots of criminals in a city. There shouldn't be lots of Draculas and werewolves, you know. But the episodes, the episodes that I would recommend are the vampire episode is not bad.
Zombie episode
is terrific. The
Jack the Ripper
werewolf
episode.
Jack the Ripper episode is probably my favorite because of how unprofessional and unheroic he is in that episode. The hospital episode is not great, but it's Lovecraftian and has some cool stuff in it. The effects are cheap though, but the ending is kind of neat. That's like almost it though. The werewolf episode is terrible as a werewolf episode, but there's funny character work from the actors. Dick Gautier and the woman is very recognizable. Kolchak dealing with the swingers on board this ship is actually one of the few comedy things that actually works. Other than that, stick to the two movies and try to find the script for The Night Walker, which is the third unproduced pilot, which Matheson may have done some work on. Hey, you know what's funny about Matheson? I knew that his son was a writer, and I've read some of his stuff. Chris Matheson?
Yeah.
But I didn't know Chris Matheson was the Chris Matheson from Bill and Ted.
Oh, really?
I had no idea. Yeah. He doesn't do interviews. He's not on Twitter. But somebody was talking about that, and I was like, are you kidding me? I had no idea. That's pretty wild. So, yeah. But Matheson's terrific. I mean, even when he has no money, he's trying. And the first movie spends a little bit of money, but it's small. You know, it's quarantined, and the second one's really. There's
real places in the original movie. There's real settings. It doesn't look back.
There's a real, and the books are not good. If you're wondering, you can get them cheap now. They used to be expensive because they were hard to find, but since the internet, I read them and they are interesting just to read how they were adapted. Kolchak is a much scuzzier user of a character. Yeah. There's a lot more of the Vegas nightlife, more prostitutes, things like that. I mean, if you watch the pilot, it's in there without rubbing it in your face. It's not a well-written book. The character is the prize. Kolchak himself, finding Darren McGavin as the actor is just perfect.
Yeah,
I can watch any Kolchak because of Kolchak.
How did you guys watch it as kids?
I watched it every week. I watched it every week when it was on. I think it was on Sunday nights. I watched that religiously, and then I rewatched it on CBS late nights when it became on CBS.
That's when I caught all of it.
There was a rerun of it before that, I think, but that's when I caught all of them. I saw a few herky-jerky as a kid, and they really actually scared the shit out of me. The Spanish Moss murders, I caught part of it, and the scenes in the tunnel scared me very much. The Richard Keel as the Indian shaman scared the shit out of me. I was at a friend's house, family, his grandmother and everybody, and I couldn't watch it. The Night Stalker really scared me as a kid. Part of that was because he was so scared. He never was cool. He was never calm. He was never collected. And I have always, Kolchak, I think, is a big tent pole for modern pop culture because people like Chris Carter, smaller people like me, and hundreds of other writers who like ghost hunting, ghost busting, occult seeking. He's not a scholar like an M.R. James character or a Lovecraft character. He's not John Thunstone or Carnacki. He is a regular schmuck who doesn't know any of this stuff. He doesn't have the library of tomes. He doesn't have a sword. He doesn't have assistants, and he's fucked every which way. And in the movies, it's amazing because he has his life taken away from him twice. He doesn't die, but he is ruined. Yeah. That first movie is the ending of that first movie. There's two endings, and the second one is the punch in the heart.
Yeah,
when his life is taken away from him. Plus, the real life corruption of the police department is exposed in that. So that's a very interesting urban, modern. It's not a gothic, and it's just an idea that was before its time and didn't have the money to really.
There was nothing like it.
Yeah.
No. Look,
No.
the character's fantastic because they just said, let's have a schlub. Let's have a guy you don't look up to. You like him, but you wouldn't say, I want to be called Kolchak.
Look, there's an interesting thing that when you talk about the original movies, he actually does change his clothes a little in those first two movies. But in the TV show, it's literally like he's a comic book character where all they
he's
can
like
do
Alan
is,
Wolf. He's dirty.
It's
they buy him a new hat. They buy him a new hat in the series.
It's not, it
and he
doesn't
throws
look
it
good
away. And
doesn't look good.
He loves he's got his crappy old car, and they just change the radio. They do a different voiceover to tell him, being thrown off a building.
Yeah.
And then 3 episodes later, being thrown out of a warehouse. And he does the same shot where he turns the car in front of people because it's like a cartoon. It's like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, the same Flintstone shot.
Another question?
I love the series. I wish it was better.
Any movies on your absolutely not ever list? So movies that you would never see. I mean, I could think of a few.
I've never seen any of the cannibal Holocaust type movies. I don't want to see animals being destroyed. I particularly like the idea of the monsters are tribal groups, and they wipe out these filmmaking elite troublemaking tourists. So there's something about the idea that you're reducing these people to a racist character. Even as a kid, I didn't like that because it was just bula shit to me. I mean, it just was uncomfortable. 2, they kill real animals in these things. 3, the idea of watching a movie just to see people getting chopped up over the period of time. I'm not into torture porn. From what I understand, people have arguments for why cannibal Holocaust, Ferox, and all that stuff, they have social commentary. I can get that by reading about it in Video Watchdog or Psychotronic or online. I have no interest in those movies. They also look kind of inept and boring, to be honest, when you watch the trailers. But I have never wanted to see the cannibal movies, for lack of a better. And most house invasion movies, funny games, things like that. I don't really want to see a family. Martyrs, Paul has convinced me that I should watch Martyrs. Other people have. I'm afraid of it, to be honest. I'm a little afraid of it. There's a movie where there's like a 20-minute rape beatdown scene.
Well, I was
going to.
Reversible, I think it's called. It's a French film.
No,
that would be on my list. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want to watch Serbian film. I wouldn't want to watch that.
Serbian
Brian,
film?
Do you have any, like genres or just things in movies where it's like, no, not watching that.
I have a swath of films that I have not watched because they were on my would not watch list. They were too scary to me growing up and being a young teenager in the 80s.
I had that too.
And that's Herschel Gordon Lewis stuff.
Okay.
Weird.
But
I've never gone back and watched them. I've never gone back and watched them.
Because of the photos in the magazines, because that's what they would always show, like the girl's arm off in 2000 Maniacs.
Yes.
And it terrified me. It looked real.
Wizard of Gore was like was a bridge too far for me. I'm like, I finally went and saw Dawn of the Dead, right? Or I would see Nightmare on Elm Street. I was terrified of horror movies, but Herschel Gordon Lewis always remained beyond the pale for me.
They look like snuff.
And even yes, and even now, when I'm like, wow, I really should watch Wizard of Gore, right? Like I should just see it. I want to know what that was, and I have an aversion to seeing it. Thinking about it, I get like just anxious, and I can never pull the trigger to watch them. So I don't know if it's.
I didn't watch a Herschel Gordon film. I didn't watch a Herschel Gordon film until I think 2004, because Turner Classic Movies was showing cult films on Fridays or something, and they hired a bunch of cartoonists to do like comics, 4-page comics that were a riff on movies. So I ended up getting 2000 Maniacs, and I was like, shit, I gotta watch this. And I had like the heart flutters even though I thought it's going to be cheap blood and stuff. It was so fucking bad. It was just so bad. It was so cartoonish. It was just, and so stupid. I was actually disappointed. I thought that it was going to be like, more like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I have never seen Last House on the Left. I haven't had much interest, to be honest. Yeah. Partly because of its subject matter is not, to me, horror. And I don't like rape revenge films. Mutilation, that's not horrible or story to me, I Spit on Your Grave is one of the dullest, worst, crappiest exploitative movies experiences. I just hated it. But it's ghosts, Brian. There are ghosts. There's like Civil War ghosts who come back every once in a while and have a jamba fucking ree, and they hope that they get some. They hope that Yankees get caught in their ghost town, and supposedly 2,000 maniacs are having a cookout and music and a party, like a country fair, and they kill people in the most ridiculously contrived ways. They put nails in a barrel while a guy's in the barrel, and then roll the barrel down a mountain. They chop his arms off, and then they eat them. And I guess this was terrifying, but the movies themselves are awful. Yeah. The thing is that the cheap, and it's in color. I always thought it was in black and white because all the photos were in black and white that I saw as a kid. The thing is, the non-actors, the cheap photography, the gore rather than blood. It's not just blood. There's an arm missing. Right. And the girls were pretty and the guys were creepy. These torture photos turned me off to HD. Now I don't watch them because I think they're going to be horrible. Right. But I might watch Wizard of Gore just as like a field trip, to see some of the Gore girls.
Right. I've never Wizard of Gore. The way it was always described to me is that like he would basically like saw a woman in half as a trick, and then later on she'd be walking and then she'd fall in half or something. Right.
I think so. It's
I
magic,
don't know. And that terrified. That fucking terrified me. I don't know why.
I was just more terrified by the idea that a bunch of crazy people would trap you in a room and cut you up and chop you into pieces. I had no idea they were ghosts, cannibals. You got to see how bad.
Scared me. What scared me about these movies was also the people who were so into them and would get so. Yeah. And for me, I was, I got corrupted pretty quickly, but I was a pretty innocent kid as a teenager. Yeah. And like that glee over these gory movies and these kind of like mutilations and was so scary to me and so weird to me.
I couldn't say, it was like why I was scared of going to punk hardcore shows, The fans at the few shows that I was at anywhere near or had friends who went and stuff, there was always people getting beat up by scary looking dudes, and the fans of the gore stuff had this kind of like, we're hardcore, you're a wimp, like the cannibals.
They were right.
It was like they were acting like Second Amendment nut jobs almost, like right. They didn't even like see the films, see the forest for the trees anymore. It was like porno, like they had to see more shit happening, literally sometimes, because they didn't know what was the next level of gore and non-story craziness. And I just find that stuff boring. And the fans some of the hardcore crazy fans. Well, that's what Pete from Eltingville Club, a lot of his shtick is that he's so tough and cool because you're a pussy because you can't see this fake snuff movie, and I'm like, I have no interest in your fake snuff movie. I don't want to see, I've seen pictures of real people hanging from hooks and shit like that. I don't want to go near that either, people who have put themselves on the Christ and have to do the adoration and all that stuff, and the research books that have the people who self-harm and cut themselves. I find that terrifying. If they love it, that's great. call me a wimp because I don't want to see people hanging by meat hooks from their tits. You know, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Or
I'm
see
gonna
a
have to watch.
movie.
I am gonna have to watch. I feel like I have to watch Wizard of Gore now just to exercise
Watch
this.
2000 Maniacs. The comic that I ended up doing, I watched 2000 Maniacs and I went, how the fuck did they? My comic was a prequel where the 2000 Maniacs have a meeting the day before they come back and kill everybody. And they basically have a meeting to prepare for Yankees coming. And they give out prizes for figuring out how to kill people in the stupidest ways possible. They also realize, because this is the truth, there are no 2000 Maniacs in that town. There's about 100 Maniacs. So they basically say, we're going to practice moving around so that we look like 2000 Maniacs. We gotta live. So everybody move around. And, you know, people start coming up with ideas. And I make fun of the movie by people going, how about we put a guy in a barrel and put nails in it and roll him down a mountain? That's beautiful. And then we eat him. That's amazing. They have a thing where they make a tower and put a rock on it. And they drop the rock on somebody like Wile E. Coyote. It's the stupidest fucking thing. It's like a bunch of people playing Murder Mousetrap with Yankees. It's so bad. You should see it. It's hilarious. Was that something?
Yes. Has anybody ever seen 120 Days of Sodom?
I've seen enough of it to know I don't want to see more of it.
Yeah, that was me.
I'm good.
I was on TV once, and I started watching it, and yeah, that stuff doesn't.
Thanks for eating shit.
Yeah.
Hey, they're eating shit. It's a statement.
Yeah,
an opinion without people actually eating shit.
An opinion on the 76 Snuff. It's a bad movie. You know, it's just.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the kind of thing where, like, if Roger Ebert and the other guy, if they shut up, I spit on your grave, it wouldn't have made the money it did.
Yeah.
Anytime somebody like Rex, whoever the hell,
Rex Reed.
Anytime Rex Reed or one of these, uptight people got crazy about a horror movie, it would do huge business afterwards. It just fed. You could do no better than to pay some critic back in the day when they were powerful to say that you thought this movie should be banned and never shown. Somehow it didn't work for The Thing, but didn't E.T. was that out, right? But yeah, I mean, I Spit on Your Grave is a terrible movie. I mean, I don't understand people who defend that as some shiny example of. It's not even shocking. It's just depressing. It's boring, and it turns out it's just the rape revenge movie thing that was going on in the early 70s, which is just not. It's hard because at times I find myself, how do I defend Mother's Day, which is a nasty film with a lot of the Last House on the Left, I Spit on Your Grave elements.
Because that's not what it. It's not just what it is. There's a lot of things going on in Mother's Day. There is.
But the black humor and the fact that it's I find it legitimately funny intentionally. It is hard to watch, but it also does the Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing of you remember it as being more violent and bloody than it is. And the movie doesn't feel as misogynistic as people paint it. It's a hard film. It's still a hard film to defend because it's nuts. Black humor is sometimes hard to defend when you go, how you can see people coming through and going, why are you laughing at this? They're beating these women. And you're like, well, wait, it is hard. Mother's Day is a film I have real trouble balancing. I don't have the words or the bullshit I can understand why people hate it. No, I'm serious. I can understand why people hate it. But I think Mother's Day, because that was a film that was pilloried. And a lot of people, even in horror, thought it was just trash. And I always thought Mother's Day was a good film. I think it's more of more of a trauma. It's more of what I wish trauma was like than trauma is.
Right.
I think it's pre-trauma, but.
Hey guys, I'm actually gonna have to bounce.
Okay, Brian.
I have a meeting in the morning that I need to be awake for. But thanks for having me.
All right,
I'm excited to see my drawing. And
I'll talk to you tomorrow about the dialogue and stuff. I'm doing a Bill and Ted Twitch thing live tomorrow, so I'll be out. I'll be gone for 2 hours tomorrow, but I'm going to try to catch up on some work. I'll talk to you. Thanks for hanging out.
I'm going to be in meetings all day tomorrow, so maybe we'll talk Thursday or Friday.
Good. I'm feeling.
All right.
Take care, Brian.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I think somebody asked about Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Yes.
I stayed away from that movie.
Say goodbye to Brian. Bye, Brian.
I stayed away from Henry for a long time. I was disturbed to watch. That was a movie that, reading about it and seeing pictures and what people said about it, I definitely stayed the hell away from Henry. When I finally did watch it, this is going to sound really weird. I was watching and I went, oh, this is Otis Toole and Henry Lee Lucas. Because by that time I had read a lot of crap about these guys. But once I went, I was able to kind of go, okay, so this is based on real life. That's an anchor. I found it really disturbing. It's a well-made, creepy film. It still shows up on a lot of lists of films that people have trouble with. They think that, disturbing or shocking. It's underplayed. You wouldn't expect this from the guy. Isn't this the basket case guy? Is it Henenlotter? I can't remember.
I didn't.
No, it's
think
John
so.
McNaughton. It's John McNaughton.
Yeah, I think so. Let me look it up.
Because everything he makes after this does not come together. I think he makes like The Collector, which is just a mess. The alien that takes people's heads off and replaces the one.
Never saw it.
Yeah, it's a lot of bad taste comedy that doesn't work, and the conceit that the creature takes the heads off people and puts a new head on and then becomes that person really doesn't work, because all of a sudden he puts Antonio Fargas's head on and then he has black hands, and then he puts on a bigger person's head and he changes body mass. It's also just a terrible film with a very bad ending that feels like they ran out of money. Henry's a scary film. Yeah,
it's creepy.
You feel like you feel like you are on a fly on the wall watching what these kinds of people might have acted like.
Yeah.
It doesn't sensationalize the serial killers. It doesn't do the thing that too many serial killer films do, which is where the director and writer fall in love with their killer. Mm. So even while they're condemning the killer, they love the contrivances and the murders. Mm. And you feel like, they're almost Freddy or Jasoning them. I haven't watched it since, even though I think it's a good movie, because I found it very depressing. Yeah.
I don't think it's as shocking as you think it is when going into it. I think it's got such a reputation.
Yeah.
And that scene that they always share of the watching of the TV set it is so gut-wrenching. But it just, in a way it's sad, in a way it's disturbing.
It's a well put together film, and it's a film that has unanswered questions that they don't shove in your face. While you're watching these characters, you start to feel like you start to feel sorry for some of them. You wish that they'd get caught. You wish that they'd get out of the life or something like that. You wish that they'd get saved. You wish they'd get helped, not just as characters in a horror-like movie, but as people representing parts of society that don't get help. The chilling factor of the film, the underplayed way some of the murders take place, the way that they show life going on around murder scenes, or it could be anyone, the randomness, it's not romanticized like Hannibal Lecter is constantly. It isn't prettified. It isn't intellectualized. It's just sad. And it's depressing, and at times it feels like a documentary.
Yeah.
And it's a knockout. And Michael Rooker, it's amazing that Michael Rooker has had such a long career and is now beloved because he's played superheroes. Yeah. The idea that he plays one of the Guardians of the Galaxy later on, one of the actual real ones from the original Guardians. He's the Archer, right? He's the Yondu, I think. Yeah. Is nuts, That's like, I'm gonna grow up and be Charlie 20 or whatever that guy's name, Charlie X or whatever, not Charlie X, but that's really wild. I recommend it. Don't watch it in a bad mood. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe don't watch it in a good mood. I don't know. What would you do? Would you watch a horror movie in a bad mood, or would you watch?
I'll watch anything. It's just the mood I'm in. But
Yeah.
I find very few horror. I don't seem to watch horror for the reasons people watch horror these days. There are obviously horror films that I feel are amazing and really well done and disturbing and creepy. But most of the time now, I enter horror because I'm looking at how badly it was made or the low budget nature of it.
Yeah.
It was one of the problems I noticed is years ago when we used to watch movies and we'd find a new movie. It's like, oh, you know, this movie's the greatest slasher we never saw. I would be disappointed because I thought I wanted to see another tourist trap. I wanted to see, you know,
surprised and thrilled by them, you know.
But I don't see. But that's not how I go anymore. I'm mostly looking for a weird kind of, you know, lesson in low budget filmmaking.
It's an experience. You're going through. It's funny because that's part of what I still like watching horror films. I'm fascinated by bad movies, but for me, there's only two kind of bad movies that I'm interested in watching. That's a big budget, big star, tons of money, complete fucking misfire, like 1941 or Ishtar. I haven't seen either of these. Town and Country, where professional people who seem to know what they're doing somehow just like hemorrhage money and have no ideas. And is this I love watching the ones that I really love are the counterculture ones. Like I have not seen Skidoo. I'm dying to see Skidoo. But the ones that are sort of like Mad World, but a few years later. So you get Skidoo, you get Candy, these films that end up with multi-major stars in these almost plotless adaptations of books often that are trying to appeal to the counterculture and just make no sense. And they're just literal what the fucks and blow money like crazy. But for me, the funniest, the most entertaining, the most fascinating bad movie is a bad horror movie. The tropes, the way that they go about trying to make a monster, the way they try making folklore, the obvious way they're trying to make sequels happen, the obvious rip-offs of other movies. A Star Wars rip-off is funny only so far. You know, Star Crash is an immensely entertaining, funny movie. But I don't want to see 10 Star Crashes. But I can watch 10 Halloween rip-offs and laugh as they try to catch the magic of Halloween with our killer can't talk, our killer has a demon in him, our killer is the son of the thing that the thing. I mean, you know, to watch Silent Scream or all the movies that came out after Halloween and Friday the 13th is fascinating to me because it really just looks like who wore it better, except that the other celebrity is wearing a cheap knockoff. And it's so fascinating to watch how this one does their Michael Myers or Jason, or this one does their Freddy jokes. How does this one do their attempt to do phantasm, surreality? How does this one do a werewolf? But it's in my interest wheelhouse, but I also just think that there is nothing funnier than a failed horror movie because you're supposed to take a horror movie seriously for it to work. You know, you can enjoy a science fiction film that's not that great, like Battle Beyond the Planet, which is a Star Wars rip, but it's really a Seven Samurai rip or
Magnificent Seven.
Magnificent Seven. But when a horror movie falls apart, it's the best laughs I've ever had, from Ed Wood to, you know, Name Your Poison, Troll 2. Or, I mean, when you're supposed to be scared and frightened or intrigued, and you end up with Troll 2, the laughs are just the hardest laughs. If it turns out you're scared, frightened, and intrigued, like The Wicker Man, that's a win.
Yeah.
And if it's not The Wicker Man, and you get what looks like The Wicker Man remake, that's a win too, because you're gonna laugh your ass off. Because horror movies can fall into pretension so easily. I'm not interested in Merchant Ivory film that's bad. You know,
Right.
If I'm going to see Room with a View, I want to see Room with a View, and I want it. You know, if I want to see a Jane Austen film, I want it to be good. I don't want to see a bad Jane Austen adaptation or a cheap Jane Austen, you know, or Daphne du Maurier. That's not funny to me, you know? That's not interesting. But to watch a bunch of people put a zippered monster up and then hire the local police force to shoot dum-dum bullets at it is fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
If horror can't be good, let it be fascinatingly bad, and then let me go online and find out that that movie didn't get finished. So that's why the end of Neon Maniacs is the way it is. That to me is like, that's folklore. Movie folklore is how, why are there two horror movies seem to have the most crazy story.
Well, that's why when you're watching a movie, Stevie and I'll have tablets in front of us and we go to the IMDb because it's not just what we're watching. We're like, wait, this happened. 3 months we couldn't film. No, people are playing different things. No, this person died during it. This person's a lunatic.
Yeah.
And the stories behind them are amazing. If you watch a bad comedy, it isn't funny. And you might laugh at what they're going for. But in a bad horror film, you're not going to be scared or you're not going to be disturbed. But what the hell are these people doing?
There's no science fiction equivalent of Don't Go in the Woods Alone. There are films that have as bad a budget and you laugh a whole bunch. Star Crash is an amazing clusterfuck, but there's money and there's just international hoo-ha going on that makes that movie terrible. But there is no comedy film that you can sit through. I can't sit through those fake Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin movies with
Duke Mitchell.
Duke Mitchell and Sammy, whatever his name is. I mean, they're funny to sit through to a degree, but it's funny to know about those without even seeing them.
Yeah.
But watching and then you have movies that are kind of interesting and also make you laugh, like Demons or some Fulci films where you're just like, it is creepy, but it's ridiculous. Dr. Freudstein and I love that. Yeah, reading IMDb and go, my father took me to
or my brother was in this movie, and he said it was hams. They used ham. It's
thank you for finding this. My uncle told me all about this, and they never paid any of us. So I love that. Is great stuff. I mean, to get those DVD extras from people who, they came to town and all had us all be extras and blah blah. Because not every film's going to get the Troll 2 treatment for how bad they are. But I love. Bad horror movies just connect to me on a level that bad other kinds of movies generally do not. A bad drama, who wants to see a bad movie about somebody who loses their child and starts a new life? That either has to be good or I'm not going anywhere near it. And musicals can be fun when they're terrible. I will say that. If a bad musical can be like, but they're hard to sit through sometimes, The sequel to Gentlemen Prefer Blondes is a misfire of like Fright Night 2 proportions, to see how wrong they got it and how much they didn't understand the chemistry of Marilyn Monroe and Jane. I forget her name all the time, who's also in His Kind of Woman. Jane Russell.
Yeah.
It is a hard film to sit through where they got everything wrong. I think it's like Gentlemen Marry Brunettes. It's terrible. It's supposed to be their daughters. Woof. I think I'm going to have to go.
Okay.
My tooth is flaring up really bad, and I'm actually finding it hard to talk.
All right. I hope everybody had a good time, coming to this. There's a couple of questions we didn't get at. We'll probably talk about them again.
Yeah,
thanks everybody for joining. We're talking about doing this soon again, and we hope you all liked it.
Yeah, save the questions. We'll definitely get to them. As always, sorry for the kind of crazy rambles. I hope you had a good time. But wow, I'm in a lot of pain right now.
All right, so go rest.
Yeah, I'm gonna go all this and get some ice and take some ibuprofen. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thanks for joining.
And we'll see you soon.
Everybody. All right, good night.
Take care, Paul. Soon. I always forget how I get out of this.
You go.
It says having issues.
Leave studio.
Jesus. I don't see. Oh, there it is. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us or for checking in.
Yes.
Take care. See you.
Good night. It's just me, everybody. Good night. I'll talk to you later.